Humans will take over the stars in a few centuries. In 1,000 years, humans will even be jumping between dimensions. Think about it, what happens when humans meet another race? History has the answer. They tell him, it always ends in blood. Humans only know heartless exploitation. Their plan is simple survival. They will use prophecies to wipe out humanity before humanity ever has a chance. Kannagi is horrified. He asks why they cannot just choose peace over all this slaughter. The clusters laugh. Too simple, little human. You and I are looking at a dark, distant future. The clusters reveal they will be annihilated by an awakener wielding the crest of nothingness. Kannagi is stunned. Someone else in the future is going to possess his exact power. The clusters mock him. Peace. Kannagi might want it, but it is just impossible. Their core principles and those of humans are simply too different to ever coexist. They give him a cold, brutal example. Would you try to negotiate peace with a pack of wild animals that only want to eat you? Think about it. If a tree appeared that turned all of Earth's oxygen into poison, what would you do? You would cut it down. You would have to, just to survive. This is a pure struggle for survival. Only one side survives, and they plan to win. They look right at Kannagi and name him for what he is. The owner of the crest of nothingness, the one singularity their species absolutely fears. And since he is currently weakened, ending him right now is going to be incredibly easy. Turns out, number 0 was just another puppet. They gave him those artifacts, but the fool actually started believing he was their equal. Kannagi is paralyzed. It finally clicks. The clusters have been the ones pulling every single string since the start. They admit to it without a shred of guilt. They have failed countless times before, but they have slowly learned from every single mistake. The awakener of nothingness always ruined their plans in the past, without fail. But this time, this long cycle of repeated failure is finally about to come to an end. Then boom! Dark tentacles erupt and pin Kannagi down as they tell him it is finally time to die. Meanwhile, Rian and the rest of the crew are already diving deep into Kannagi's soul. Rian explains his consciousness might escape, but the fight is far from over yet. The founders can't help because Kannagi's power is currently under a heavy seal. But he promises one thing, he is going to lead them directly to Kannagi. Stick with me, because they are now entering the core of Kannagi's heart. As they journey through his heart, they witness every horrific trauma he has endured and just how much he loves this squad. Even Suo sees his brother in these memories, specifically the brutal way he was killed. They see how broken he really was, but while they are distracted by the tragedy, Rian shouts he has finally found him. They spot Kannagi in the distance. He is being swallowed by those dark tentacles, and Rian asks the squad if they are ready. The group doesn't blink, they are ready. They all charge toward his position without a single hesitation. But before they can reach him, the enemy launches a sudden attack. The squad instantly retaliates, unleashing massive firepower that burns right through the enemy's onslaught. As the tentacles seal him away, Kannagi struggles to keep his eyes open. His mind is fading. Still, he knows it is game over if his mind completely fades into the dark. Back in the ICU unit, the medical staff is in a total panic. Kannagi's levels are dropping rapidly, and they are doing everything possible to keep him alive. Yushima knows the stakes. If he dies now, the entire world is coming down with him. The 4 souls bound to him are doomed to die by his side. Moments later, the clusters see Kannagi stop moving as his entire body begins to fade into a cold gray. They wonder if he is already gone, and suddenly, Kannagi's flickering image completely shatters like broken glass. Meanwhile, in the ICU, his pulse hits 0. The doctors panic while those twisted clusters celebrate what looks like his final breath. These monsters are thrilled to be rid of Kannagi once and for all. Without him in the way, total control over the world is finally theirs. But wait, a crack rips through the air, and the squad suddenly bursts through. Akin screams his name, and the hollow remains of Kannagi's body slowly turn to face his loyal friends. Their presence ignites a surge of pure hope, flooding Kannagi with the energy needed to bring his consciousness back. Kanagi is stunned to see his friends standing there. The clusters are losing it. How did this squad manage to smash through their powerful outer barrier? Kanagi is still dazed by everything. He looks at them, barely able to ask how they arrived. They credit Rian for the rescue, while Siu steps forward to tap his shoulder, a look of regret on his face. He apologizes for not seeing sooner that Kanagi was carrying such a massive weight all on his own. With fire in his eyes, Suo promises that from this very moment forward, they are going to walk this path together. Touched by their loyalty, Kanagi admits he has never even heard of the clusters, but he is deeply grateful. He is just so thankful they actually showed up to save him. You and I can hear the relief in his voice as he thanks them for not leaving him behind. But as they share this warm reunion moment, the clusters finally speak. They taunt Rian, claiming it is nice to meet again since this is not their first time crossing paths. Then they go for the throat, bringing up Rian's family to mess with him. They start slowly counting every family member they have already slaughtered with their own hands. The monster's head splits open, revealing a hideous mouth that tells Rian his sister tasted absolutely delicious. Fed up with the trash talk, the team charges forward in a blind rage, ignoring Rian as he screams for them to stay back and stop. It is a trap. Tentacles lash out, slamming into them and beginning to rip their very consciousness apart. Reality sinks in for the squad as they realize they are totally paralyzed. Rian is horrified. Even in this mental world, this enemy wields a level of power he never anticipated. He screams for everyone to retreat before their souls are swallowed whole by this overwhelming and dark energy. The clusters just laugh at him, reminding him that this is exactly how his family met their tragic end. The creature declares that it is finally time to feast on every single one of them. Suddenly, a massive bolt of energy streaks down from above. It slams into the earth with violent force, leaving everyone present shaking in absolute disbelief. Now, you and I are wondering just who could possess such an incredible power. Two figures descend from the sky, praising the squad. They explain they only got in because the barrier was already cracked. It is a massive, muscular man and his sister, both of them radiating an absolutely terrifying amount of aura. Their presence is heavy, and the energy flowing off them is unlike anything we have seen before. Kanagi has no clue who they are, but Akin. She tells him he should have recognized them from his very first day joining the squad. It clicks for Kanagi. He finally remembers exactly who these two legends are. All right, even Suo and the crew are stunned. We're looking at legends everyone thought had retired. This beefed-up giant looks at his sister, telling her that he wants them too. Wipe out the cluster's vanguard immediately. He's got some private business to discuss with Kanagi. He is radiating pure confidence. Turns out, this powerhouse is actually the one and only Claude Friedman, a trainee from the Japanese anti-prophecy branch, standing in the same elite grade as Kanagi. And that girl is his sister, Natasha Smirnov. She holds the same prestigious status as Claude. The cluster villain demands to know who he is as Claude slowly descends to the ground. Simply telling the monster to clear out. He shouldn't even be standing in the presence of Natasha, the princess of Aulette. The whole team is stunned to hear that Natasha is actual royalty. But while everyone is freaking out, Natasha is just napping on her teddy, completely unbothered by anything. Even the yellow-haired guy has zero clue where this Aulette place even is. Natasha then drifts over to where Kanagi is. She tells him it is a pleasure to meet, then asks him to save her world with a smile. Kanagi is totally lost. What does she mean by him saving her entire world? Seeing his confused expression, Natasha tells him to relax if he agrees to help her out. She will help him break out of this mental world where he's currently stuck. Right then, the cluster villain finally realizes this is all about the world of Aulette. But he makes one thing clear: Kanagi's death is absolutely inevitable. Furiously, he snaps that Aulette is a pathetic world that needs to stay out of his way. He lashes out, unleashing disgusting tentacles that leave the entire team completely helpless. Midori realizes instantly, The moment those tentacles touch him, he knows this power is on another level. Claude calls out to Natasha, saying they need to handle the tentacle situation first. Natasha simply nods in agreement. But she tells Kannagi to consider this her little upfront payment. With a single word, she triggers her skill, Spark Light. Suddenly, the tentacles freeze in place. The cluster villain panics the second he realizes what kind of insane power Natasha holds. He snarls at them, saying they should know their place. To him, they are nothing but food. On the flip side, Claude is loving every second. His princess just showed everyone exactly how powerful she is. He boldly struts up to the cluster villain and casually places a hand on his head. He fires a massive energy blast point blank. Every atom in the cluster's body disintegrates as he screams in rage. He demands to know why Claude would dare ruin their one chance to kill Kannagi. He vows to make Claude regret ever stepping in, but Claude isn't worried at all. Claude just smiles, telling him that he is not going to let that happen. To everyone's shock, the villain crumbles into dust. Kannagi's jaw is practically hitting the floor. With the villain gone, everyone is healed. Suddenly, a mysterious blue light begins glowing beneath them. Natasha casually says the mission was a success. She's already drifting off because this space feels so cozy. Kannagi is forced to yell at her, telling her not to nap inside him. Claude steps in to help, telling Natasha it is not a good idea to stay inside Kannagi too long. She finally agrees. With a smile, she suggests they talk in the real world later. Then, they are both expelled. She reminds him they are putting their entire bet on him. We'll see if he's ready. A moment later, Kannagi screams out in horror before finally beginning to calm down. He quickly realizes he is in a strange room he does not recognize. His injuries are completely gone. Looking closer, he spots something else that surprises him. His entire squad is fast asleep right beside him. They look totally drained, yet they stayed. Seeing this, Kannagi cannot help but smile. That is when Rin walks in, visibly shocked to see that our hero is already awake. Rin explains that by the time the others arrived, her specialized skill had finally healed him. She used her unique ability to actually reverse time and fix his fatal wounds. Kannagi is truly grateful and gives her a very sincere thank you. Rin thanks him right back, admitting she is just glad he saved the others. Right as this sweet moment is wrapping up, Akin bolts awake and starts screaming at the top of her lungs because he is awake. This wakes the whole squad instantly. Everyone is cheering, just happy to have him back. Moments later, Claude and Natasha enter the room, though the princess is still snoozing on her giant teddy. When Claude speaks, Siu is caught off guard. He cannot believe the guy sounds like that. Claude cuts to the chase, assuming they have figured out that they are not from Earth. Since things are getting pretty serious, Claude wakes the princess, and she gives Kannagi a very humble greeting. She reminds him of her request from his mental space about saving her dying world. Kannagi is completely lost. He asks Natasha where to start, especially since he never actually promised anything. Natasha confirms this, but she reveals some terrifying news. Massive towers are currently falling on her planet, which immediately puts the whole team on edge. It hits them. She is talking about those exact same towers that were conquered by the founders 300 years ago. Even Rion looks shaken by this. Natasha confirms it, explaining that the same nightmare that once broke Earth is now consuming her home world, too. Stick with me, Claude adds that these clusters intend to use their world as a foundation to launch an invasion on Earth. This news sends a shockwave through the entire group. Keeping her voice steady, Natasha tells Kannagi to destroy every single tower. Not one can remain. Apparently, he is the only one. It turns out Claude and Natasha barely escaped their planet while it was on the brink. But Natasha vows to return with the wielder of the Crest of Nothingness to save them. Natasha then explains to the squad that Earth is caught in a massive interdimensional war for supremacy throughout the universe. This leaves the team questioning everything. Natasha continues, pointing out that even on their planet, war is always there. It is always about fighting for territory, resources, and even human labor. She notes that in the past, massive nations would battle for control, and she explains that this is the same thing happening in the universe, just on a much larger scale. Kannagi is floored by the scale of it all and apologizes for being a bit slow. Natasha understands he won't get everything she is saying, so she suggests they take a walk for a little bit. She tells Claude to handle it, and he promptly prepares a portal for them. A moment later, they step into a bustling town, which Natasha reveals is her actual childhood home. She explains that this is Aulet, a tiny country tucked away on the massive planet Eurode. As Akin takes in the sights, a little girl walks up and offers a flower. Akin reaches out to thank her, but her hand passes right through, she can't touch anything. Natasha explains it is an artifact's power, allowing them to step right into a memory. They are literally walking through a reconstructed vision of the past. The whole squad is stunned because everything here feels so incredibly alive. They spot posters of Natasha on the walls, and Akin asks Claude exactly what they say. Claude answers, "The posters say there are only 5 days left until the royal coronation begins." Suo finally gets it. Claude was serious when he said Natasha was a real princess. Natasha shyly leads them to her old house, but it looks more like a grand, magical castle from a fairy tale. Midori is speechless, admitting this is nothing like the stories he heard before. Kannagi watches a mother and child nearby, seeing a level of pure happiness that makes him think of his own family. It reminds him so much of his mother. He wishes more than anything that she was safe and healthy back home. He tells Natasha her home is beautiful, and she thanks him with a sad smile. But then she tells him to watch closely, and Kannagi wonders what she means by that. Suddenly, those massive towers start to fall from the sky, triggering absolute chaos. They watch in horror as the massive towers crush the peaceful town, wiping out everything in an instant. The squad sees innocent people being slaughtered by the structures. Then, a bone-chilling, piercing scream echoes through the air. Akin asks who screamed, only for Natasha to admit that voice was hers. Suo realizes this isn't just a vision, it is Natasha's actual, traumatizing memory. Then, without warning, the illusion shatters, leaving them in a wasteland as Natasha weeps for her lost world. A ghost of a memory shows Claude protecting her, screaming for her to run. He tells her to get to the Tree of Light as fast as possible. But it is too late. Natasha's entire family and kingdom are gone. Kannagi is paralyzed, realizing Natasha had to witness this nightmare with her own eyes. Natasha whispers that every time she closes her eyes, she relives this invasion over and over, seeing her entire world overrun by those horrific, monstrous clusters every night. Head hung low, Kannagi walks toward her, the words of the founders ringing in his mind. They told him they wanted to destroy the towers because beings from another dimension were toying with human lives like playthings. Those founders were fueled by absolute rage after seeing the weak suffer, and now Kannagi finally understands that pain. He finally understands the weight of what Mel's told him before. Without hesitating, Kannagi puts a steady hand on her shoulder with the whole gang behind him, asking what they must do to save her planet. Natasha is already drowning in her tears. The question hits her hard, showing just how much this trauma still haunts her soul. Right in that moment, Kannaga's crest reignites, pulling the founders back into his body. With a voice that demands respect, Kannagi orders his squad and the founders to eliminate every last cluster. Once they made it back home, plans were already moving to save Natasha's home planet. The whole team volunteers instantly. Well, except for Uryo, who was already busy dreaming of a post-mission vacation. They literally had to restrain him. Uryo just can't believe he finished one mission, only to get dragged straight into saving yet another world. Uryu is the lone voice of protest, especially since even Io agreed the second she heard the plan. Uryu thinks Io is just being soft on Kannagi. Honestly, he's totally regretting joining this squad right now. Right about now, he's wishing he'd joined Hibiki's team instead. At least there, he'd be pampered. He looks to Akin for some sympathy, but she just screams at him. That's when he realizes he's in a bad spot. There's only one person left to blame for this annoying mission, and that's definitely Kannagi. Earlier that day, Kannagi met with the founders, who apologized profusely. They were so restrained by the cluster that they couldn't do a thing. The whole squad feels like they failed, but Kannagi steps up, boosting their spirits by thanking them for everything. He gives Ryona a special thanks. But Ryona brushes it off, telling him there is no need for gratitude. Instead, he suggests it's time to focus on their next move. Kannagi makes it clear to everyone that the next priority is saving Natasha's home world. He wants to know exactly how they managed to take down the clusters back in the day. But as soon as he asks, the founders are stumped. They didn't have a secret strategy, they just fought hard and took the enemy down. Kannagi tries to clarify, but Ryan steps in, suggesting that the founders might actually be right. He reminds him that since the clusters failed to kill Kannagi, they are probably already planning their next counterattack. Ryan tells Kannagi that the best defense is a strong offense. They need to head to planet Yura and strike first, without wasting a second. Kannagi is stunned. He asks Ryona if he really means they should head into deep space right now. Hinoki points out that time is a luxury they don't have. Kannagi has to agree, though it feels like they are rushing. Ryona says the very first step is to revisit the exact spot where he first encountered the founders. And get this, that's the real reason Kannagi and his squad are heading to the mausoleum of the founders. Apparently, there's a massive portal device hidden deep within that place. Just as they reach the site, a blinding light descends on the mausoleum, while the team wonders what's happening. Kannagi calmly explains that this light is their ticket to Natasha's world. Even Claude is shocked. They had to cross so many dangerous planets just to reach Earth before this. Natasha is left completely speechless, claiming she's never heard of a device capable of teleporting this many people all at once. Just then, a pack of monsters appears. Hinoki asks Kannagi if these look familiar from his first fight here. Kannagi confirms it, a sleeping beast from the tower. Then, the realization hits hard. They are dealing with clusters here. Hinoki. He backs this up. The portal is active, and these monsters are swarming in massive numbers to meet it. Hinoki is itching for a fight, practically shouting at Kannagi to hand over the keys to his body. No time to lose, Hinoki takes full control now. He dives straight out of the car, ready to squash these pests. As Hinoki gears up, Midori steps out too, making it clear he is not sitting this one out. Hinoki hasn't forgot that they still have a score. A score to settle, but Midori just shrugs it off. He's ready to dance anytime. However, now isn't the time. Midori is internally fuming over his own recent failures and needs an outlet. He can't shake the memory of what Number Zero did to his body. He begs Hinoki for the chance to vent some rage. Hinoki agrees to the tag team and tells Suo to floor the accelerator. Right then, a massive beast enters the fray. Hinoki is loving it. It's been way too long since he truly went wild on something this big. He triggers the splitting cloud technique, unleashing an energy blade that carves through the giant snake monster like butter. Everyone is left speechless. Even Midori is stunned by the sheer, overwhelming destructive power of that skill. He realizes Kannagi has reached a level of strength far beyond their past encounters. Hinoki confirms it. Kannagi's physical vessel has evolved since the last time he tapped into this power. Meanwhile, Uryu is talking big, hurling insults at the monsters from the car, as if he's actually contributing something useful. That cockiness vanishes when he sees the true scale of the horde they're facing. Suddenly, he's begging Sakazaki to just warp them all out of this nightmare. Get out of here, but Sakazaki tells him to finally shut his trap. Suddenly, a massive wall of monster goo blocks their path. But Suo isn't breaking. He trusts his teammates more than he fears the obstacle. Speeding toward the slime, Hinoki closes his eyes, raises his blade, and inhales deeply. Channeling an ancient technique, memories of training through endless rain and storms flood back. Seasons of brutal weather, all endured just to master this single, devastating strike. His eyes snap open. Target locked. He unleashes the droplets cut, erasing every monster in a single surgical stroke. The road is clear. Midori is left standing there, completely awestruck. Midori's mind drifts back to the conversation he had with Io right after his recovery. Io tells him straight. He's carrying too much. He asks the elder what path is even left for him now. Not after his own hands took so many lives, including Eridib's. He wonders if atonement is even possible after everything he's done. Her honest answer, she doesn't know. That bluntness leaves Rin and Shiki in total shock. She explains the cold truth. It was his own slip-up that let Number Zero's malice take root. She hates to add more weight to his soul, but she knows his conscience will never truly find peace like this. So she offers a final piece of advice: keep fighting until an answer reveals itself. He finally has that answer burning in his mind. Io tells him to get back to work and leave the past behind, because even in the deepest shadows, light is waiting for anyone brave enough to keep moving forward. Back on the road, Sue spots civilians trapped in the car ahead, but they are totally stumped on how to save them. Suddenly, a massive sphere of wind wraps around the car, shocking everyone. They look back and realize Midori is using his turbulence skill to create it. Usually, turbulence is just a destructive storm meant to tear everything to shreds. But Midori has somehow learned to tame that wild, chaotic energy. He has mastered the storm to protect his friends instead of just destroying things. Surprisingly, he manifests multiple wind shields to guard every single person nearby, while also creating a storm to crush the monsters. Akin is absolutely floored. She never imagined Midori could juggle this many wind currents at once. Moments later, the swarming bugs merge into a giant snake and lunge toward the vehicle. While the others are panicking, Hinoki is just laughing, totally hyped about Midori's new trick. The two stand back to back, unleashing absolute carnage on the monsters as they race toward their final stop. Suo gives them props, telling the team they are about to reach their destination very soon, the mysterious mausoleum of the founders. Meanwhile, a mysterious guy is waiting for them at the site. It is the guardian of the mausoleum, Hanyagi Rui. When they finally pull up, Rui welcomes them, introducing himself as the man in charge of the mausoleum. He explains his family has protected this place for generations, and since he lives in a house inside the mausoleum itself, he is basically a monk working at a sacred temple. He spends his days cleaning and greeting visitors, though they usually sell souvenirs too. But with that strange light beaming down from the sky today, he knows things are about to get very weird. Uryu, being a total smart-aleck, chimed in saying he would also be shocked if a giant light beam suddenly hit his house. Right then, Rui walks up to Kanagi, acting super friendly, leaving the poor guy wondering if they have ever met. Rui is not offended. It has been a long time after all. But he reminds him they used to play together in the mausoleum's library. The second he says that, it finally clicks for Kanagi who Rui actually is, and he lets out an incredibly loud gasp of shock. Rui admits he really misses those old childhood days. And he is sure Kanagi did not recognize him at first since he stopped wearing his old glasses. Kanagi then asks about Rui's father, since it looks like Rui is running the show now. Instead of answering the question, Rui suggests they head inside the mausoleum so they do not waste another second. Rui leads them to a staircase, descending deep underground, and Kanagi is completely blown away. Rui pulls out a book and tells them that according to the text, the light is actually a portal, and it is his solemn duty to guide everyone to the very bottom. As they head down the steps, Kanagi cannot help but remember all the fun they had as kids. They used to run wild in that library, always being told off by Rui's father for their constant chasing. See, Rui once told his father that Kanagi was only chasing him to make him read about the founder's history. The old man just chuckled, patting their heads and admitting that Kanagi actually had a very good point. He explained that the library was far more than a playground. It held secrets much more exciting than tag. He pulled out an old, dusty book that looked like total junk to Rui. But his father revealed It was actually the legendary record of the Crest of Nothingness. He mentioned that long ago. A mysterious awakener fought alongside the founders, though most of their story has been lost to time. Rui's father then patted Kanagi's head, telling him to protect the world just like his beloved founders once did. He had just received his crest, and it seemed like the man already knew the heavy destiny Kanagi carried inside. Kanagi gave him a big, excited promise that he would, so the man decided to read them a story since there were no visitors that day. He sat them down to show them the coolest parts of the book, including the legend of the man who supposedly sliced the stars. Back in the present, as the group continues to descend the stairs, Rui finally reveals that his father is dead, leaving Kanagi completely stunned. It happened about 2 months after those grave robbers broke in. A stray bug, just like the ones they fought earlier, ended up taking his father's life. Apparently, that monster was eventually taken out by a passing hunter, but by then, the damage was already done and his father was gone. Kanagi remembers it vividly. And Rian points out that the broken seal is likely what triggered the whole tragedy. Rian says the clusters must have sensed the unique energy coming from the crest of nothingness. They were just waiting for any sign of that power to hunt down and take out the owner. Hearing this hits Kanagi hard. He starts blaming himself, believing that Rui's father would still be alive if he hadn't gone and broken that seal. Rui can tell exactly what he's thinking, insisting it wasn't his fault. The only ones to blame here are those mindless, bloodthirsty clusters. Then Rui shares a secret no one knows, revealing that his father's very first ancestor, the original guardian, loved the founders so much that he practically forced Rui's father to marry into the family. He grew up in an environment stripped of emotion, unlike his father who was always so calm and cheerful. Soon, they reach the deepest part of the mausoleum. As they push the heavy door open, they are met with a massive portal, supposedly built by the founders and the original wielder of the Crest of Nothingness. Rui confirms that Kanagi's own predecessor was the one who actually created the portal. But before they get too distracted talking, Hinoki suggests they head to Natasha's planet immediately. Kanagi agrees and gives Rui a final thanks for all his help. Rui explains that once they enter the circle, the Crest of Nothingness will act as their master key. He warns them that only true awakeners are able to teleport, meaning Rui has to stay behind while Kanagi thanks him one last time. Just as the squad enters the light, Rui calls Kanagi back, asking if he's actually going to defeat the leader of the ones who killed his father at their destination. Kanagi says yes. Seeing this, Rui seizes the chance to make a heartfelt plea. Rui breaks down, begging Kanagi to avenge his father because he can never forgive those monsters for what they did. Since he lacks the power to fight alone, he is putting his entire fate in Kanagi's hands. Kanagi grips the boy's hands, swearing that he will personally settle the score and wipe every last cluster from existence. After making that solemn promise, Kanagi rejoins his squad in the circle and apologizes for the delay. The second he steps inside, the portal roars to life, aiming straight for Alette. The sheer force of energy is so massive that Rui is forced to bow down, offering a final prayer for Kanagi's success as they depart. While hurtling through the shimmering portal, Kanagi is consumed by pure rage, thinking of the atrocities committed by the clusters and vowing total destruction. Moments later, the squad arrives at Natasha's home world, looking down from the sky. They witness the horrific sight of her thriving city turned into a graveyard, dominated by those massive towers. Even the Grand Castle is now consumed by the Dark Towers, while Claude and Natasha watch in despair. Everyone witnessing the carnage is boiling, with a righteous, unstoppable anger. Suddenly, Sokka spots movement, survivors huddled behind the castle walls, and quickly alerts the rest of the team. Sue realizes the people are hiding. Then Uryu points out something sinister crawling toward the nearby tents. It looks like trouble. It is one of those vile bugs, and Natasha doesn't hesitate for a second before charging in. Since she is rushing in alone, Kanagi orders the squad to move out and protect her at all costs. Meanwhile, the starving survivors are sharing the tiny scrap of food they have left. A hungry child begs his mother for a little more to eat. But she softly tells him to be brave, because everyone is suffering through the same meager rations. Another shivering boy tells his mother how much he wants to go home because of the cold, and she desperately assures him they will return very soon. The people pray for their princess to return so this nightmare can finally come to an end. Before the words even leave their lips, Natasha suddenly appears high above the crowd. She looks absolutely devastated, weeping as she begs her people for forgiveness for being so late. Deep down, she feels pathetic and weak for leaving them, her heart shattering as she faces their hollow eyes. Instead of showing any anger, the survivors erupt in pure joy, cheering because their beloved princess has finally come back. They celebrate the fact that she never abandoned them, their joyous welcomes bringing a flood of tears to her face. She cries because even though she left to find help, it still feels like, at the end of the day, she still abandoned them. Natasha screams to the crowd that everything will be fine now because she has brought the world's strongest allies. Right then, a massive beast looms behind her, and the terrified people think their princess is about to be devoured. But Sokka and Uryu leap in, using their powers to shield Natasha and block the creature's path. Meanwhile, the rest of the squad strikes together to completely obliterate the monster. The survivors are stunned by this display of pure power, and Natasha uses the moment to announce that these warriors will definitely crush the clusters for good. Villagers begin to offer thanks to Kannagi and his team. Akin reminds everyone that protecting these innocent lives is their top priority. Suddenly, a new enemy on horseback charges onto the scene. While Kannagi and his crew wonder who this stranger is, Claude and Natasha instantly recognize him. It turns out this man is actually Natasha's elder brother. Mikhail Smirnov, he looks like a nightmare as black sludge pours from his eyes and mouth, proving he has been fully consumed by the cluster's dark influence. With a creepy, twisted smile on his face, he greets his sister. He suggests they return to the castle immediately where their parents are waiting for her. Meanwhile, at the castle, Natasha's parents are thrilled their daughter is finally returning home. Her mother, Annette, speaks about how much she misses her daughter, and her father, Nikolai, couldn't agree more. On the front lines, Akin and the others are losing it when they realize that this guy dripping in black sludge is actually Natasha's own flesh and blood. Claude confirms the horror, revealing Mikhail is one of the tragedies that ravaged this land. Essentially, these clusters are hijacking the bodies of those who hold power across the kingdom. Apparently, they used this possession method to seize total control immediately after the invasion. Hinata realizes they are using the same dirty tactics that Number Zero and Eva once used. But it is no surprise since the clusters provided the very artifacts that started this mess. Mikhail confirms it, telling the group they willingly embrace the clusters to become something more. Mikhail begins boasting about how he now feels like an entirely different species compared to his old human life. Mikhail then pressures Natasha to join them, leaving Natasha in tears as she wonders how much more these monsters will ruin her life. Mikhail turns to the rest of the squad, offering them the same twisted deal. He suggests they could all be friends, since they were kind enough to bring Natasha home. He tells the squad that if they just accept the clusters, they can all rule this world together. With a sinister laugh, black sludge drips from his mouth while he promises they are going to conquer everything. Kannaga's answer is a lightning-fast dash and a strike that Mikhail blocks with zero effort. Kannagi tells the guy he is not interested, mockingly addressing him as his elder brother. But Mikhail snaps back, saying he never gave some random brat permission to call him that. Hinoki decides to step back from the duel. He tells Kannagi that Mikhail is all his, wanting him to see exactly what kind of monster they are facing from here on out. Kannagi strikes at Mikhail's horse before launching a follow-up attack directly at the man. But Mikhail parries the blow with ease. Kannagi is stunned. That spear does not have a single scratch on it, even after taking a direct hit. Mikhail decides to return. The the favor by unleashing a swarm of tentacles from his spear, bypassing Kannagi toward the backline. The moment Midori sees, he screams for the squad to guard themselves and keep those tentacles from touching them, since one touch will completely seal their special skills. Mikkel follows up immediately with a massive energy blast from his spear. Kannagi panics, fearing his team is already hit. This distraction gives Mikkel the opening to close in. Mikkel drives his spear straight for the head, but Kannagi barely catches it with his blade. Kannagi is totally crushed by Mikkel's insane power, forced to admit this guy is actually the real deal. Mikkel boasts about his knightly lineage, claiming their spears are built to pierce through absolutely any defense. He cranks up the pressure, trying to fry Kannagi with a sudden surge of pure lightning energy. Mels can only laugh. Mikkel really thinks he can outmatch them when it comes to lightning. Suddenly, Mikkel's strike is nullified. The guy is left in total shock. Kannagi seizes the moment, swinging back with a heavy counter. But Mikkel is not finished. He drops another massive lightning wave, lighting up the entire sky. Recognizing just how high Kannagi's level truly is, he readies himself to go full power. But the castle tower suddenly flares up. It is a signal from his mother. He is ordered back to the castle immediately. Mikkel coolly turns his horse around and rides off, leaving Kannagi with one last challenge. "Follow me to the castle, if you still want to finish this fight," he says. That is when Kannagi notices two figures watching from the castle window, looking closer. He realizes he is looking at Natasha's parents. Seeing them standing there with such arrogant looks, the founders urge Kannagi forward, itching to strike. But first, let's look back at how this all began. We see Natasha's family sharing a quiet meal, looking like the picture of a happy home. Apparently, Natasha was a notorious sleeper back then, even nodding off right there in the middle of dinner. Mikkel has to poke her, reminding her they are actually supposed to be eating. But she just groggily asks for 9 more hours. Mikkel is baffled. It will be dark out by then. Mikkel warns her that their mother is already giving her a terrifying stare. Hearing that stern voice call her name, Natasha snaps awake in total terror, swearing she is up. Her father, on the other hand, just laughs it off, saying it is fine. Kids who sleep and eat plenty always end up growing into strong adults. But Anat points out the obvious. Natasha is trying to do both at the exact same time. Looking at this mess, her mother cannot believe this girl is supposed to be her successor. Later, Carol, the legendary hero in charge of her training, comes looking for her. While he searches, Natasha and Mikkel are off having a little heart-to-heart talk as siblings. A guard reports that Carol is hunting for her, but she basically tells him to get lost. She is 0% interested in practicing today. She vents to her brother about another scolding, all because of those heavy expectations of being the successor. But honestly, all she wants is to nap and be lazy all day. She tells Mikkel he is the one who should really be wearing the crown. But he has to remind her, their family line always follows the female side first. It turns out even their own father had to marry into the family. Still, Mikkel promises that no matter what, she will make an amazing queen. Natasha does not get why he is so sure. Mikkel just smiles, knowing deep down that Natasha truly loves their country. She can't argue there, but she asks if he will stay by her side, even after she takes the throne. Mihail pats her head, promising he will always be there to support her. So she has 0 worries. Natasha smiles, telling her brother she is really counting on him from now on. Suddenly, Carol appears, but Mihail grabs his sister and bolts, helping her ditch their training session. Back in the present, Kannagi turns to the team, asking Natasha what their next move should be. Akin is stunned. Wait, isn't Kannagi the captain of this whole squad? He is the leader, but this involves Natasha's own family, a heavy burden for anyone. So he leaves the choice to her. Will they actually fight her own flesh and blood? Natasha goes quiet, weighing the heavy decision. Then she remembers her brother's words. He knew exactly how much she loved this country. Seeing her people in pain makes the choice clear. Duty comes first. She gives the command. It's time to march straight toward the castle. They finally reach the gates. But a heavy, ominous vibe is radiating from inside. Something is definitely wrong in there. Uryu hits his limit first, clutching his head in disgust at the foul energy of these gross enemies. Suddenly, Suo spots a figure. Someone is just standing there, blocking the main gate. Claude and Natasha are both frozen. The man standing before them is none other than Carol. For a split second, Carol seems to recognize the princess through the haze. But the darkness takes over. He snaps, swinging a massive weapon and screaming at them to get out of his way right now. Suo rushes in to block it. But he gets sent flying back instantly. Even Kanagi is shocked. This level of power, it's on a completely different scale. While the squad struggles with Carol, Natasha's family watches the chaos from the balcony above. The brutal skirmish drags on for several minutes. Hinoki warns that they're out of time, while Akin checks if Natasha is okay with fighting. It's a heartbreaking choice for her. But Natasha gives the word. They must take down the man who was once her mentor. Carol launches a wave of that dark sludge. Natasha shouts that she cannot allow this to happen for her people, and she uses her special skill to nullify that disgusting sludge. The blinding spark of light leaves Carol wide open. Kanagi seizes the moment, shattering the weapon and weakening the old warrior. Hinoki admits he wanted a fair duel, but they don't have that luxury right now. The clock is ticking, and every second counts. Hinoki powers up his signature move. Get ready for the dice slash. The strike cuts deep, shredding Carol internally. The clusters lose their grip. All that filth erupts from his body, and they watch as the dark goo is released into the sky above. Carol finally collapses to his knees. He looks at Natasha and smiles. She's grown strong. With his final breath, he begs her to save their kingdom. She promises she will. Natasha unleashes one last spark of light, putting Carol to rest. It turns out the tragic truth is that once those clusters take over a body, there is simply no way to return them to normal. With Carol finally defeated, her family retreats into the castle, looking absolutely disappointed. With the gate wide open, Kanagi shouts for the squad to move. Time is running out fast for them. A few moments later, they finally reach the castle entrance. Kanagi orders everyone down as Hinoki unleashes a massive wave technique, slicing right through the tower top. Suo is absolutely floored. Just one strike from Hinoki's single sword style did all that? Crazy. Mel's realizes the tower top is actually their barrier. And Ryan confirms it. Without breaking that shield, there is no way they are getting inside that castle. Shemmer calls it a major problem. That barrier covers both the insects and the castle itself, but the entrance? Open. Kanagi decides to make a direct dash for the throne room. Ryan tells Hinoki to switch out. Now in charge, he warns them that monster above is a fully grown void insect. The moment it senses them, it is going to speed up the hatchling process. Uryu is totally lost. Everyone else is on the same page from the car briefing, but Uryu. He was too busy crying about his missed vacation. About that hatchling, though. It basically uses the tower to drain the planet's energy, turning it into power to fuse with other living beings. Ryan then says there is a real chance they won't be able to win once it fuses with the creatures living on this planet. Uryu is stunned. I mean, they have got heavy hitters like Kanagi and Midori, right? Suo asks if even the founders inside Kanagi would struggle against that hatchling. It is a scary thought. Ryan's answer, the chance of failure isn't zero. That is reassuring. Essentially, the only way through is to kill the barrier and crush those insects immediately. Ryan's voice is full of confidence now. He promises the squad the founders will handle any obstacles standing in their way. No exceptions. They run into Mihil again. Hinoki is ready to throw down, hands already on the sword. But Shemmer steps in. He reminds Hinoki that he has already done more than enough fighting today. Shemmer tells him to let him handle this round because Mihil uses a spear, and that happens to be Shemmer's absolute specialty. A teammate asks if he needs a spear, but Shemmer just waves him off. Luckily, there is a random flagpole lying right there. Mihil fires off a massive thunderbolt, but Shemmer just casually steps on the pole to snatch it up. With his makeshift spear in hand, he blocks Mihil's attack like it's nothing. Claude and Natasha are speechless. How is he stopping Mihail's strongest moves with a piece of wood? He is not even sweating. Shemar looks Mihail dead in the eye and tells him his spearmanship is pure garbage. With one hand, Shemar blasts Mihail and his horse into the distance. Total power move. Mihail is reeling, wondering what kind of monster he is facing. He realizes the aura around Kannagi has completely shifted now. Even his arrogant horse is shaking in its boots, literally. Shemar tells Mihail to get ready. He is about to show him the blue spear of destruction. Now this is real spearmanship. We are then taken back hundreds of years into the past. To Shemar's backstory during a brutal war between two massive nations. Shemar's side is outnumbered. As the young version of him walks through the camp, he looks at the soldiers. He realizes most of these men just want to get back home to their families. Shemar was still just a kid back then, but even so. He gripped a massive spear 3 times his size, hair flowing like a blue wolf's tail. This commander wants all his soldiers to make it back home alive. But he's terrified that won't happen. The enemy army is just too massive. Suddenly he spots Shemar. Calling him a brave lad, he asks what he's doing here. Shemar simply says he wants the battle ended. The general is stunned. It's his first time even seeing this kid. He asks where he's from. Shemar points toward the forest of the ancient wolf. That's the legendary home of an ancient god. The commander can't believe anyone could survive in that uninhabitable forest. Shemar knows the old man won't consider surrendering. Despite knowing the enemy vastly outnumbers his men. The man confirms it. Shemar asks if the stories are true. Do they burn everything to ashes? Shemar has witnessed this cruelty firsthand because the enemy actually burned down the very forest he was raised in, which is why he came here. Since the kid wants the fighting to stop. The commander points toward a small hill far in the distance, tucked just behind the enemy's main camp. He tells Shemar to look for the flag on the hill, because the enemy general is standing right beneath it. He says the war ends once that general falls. But they'll have to break their formations first. As he explains, Shemar gets into a stance. His spear points straight at the general. He locks on just like a sniper. He unleashes a massive wind strike from his spear, blasting straight through the formation toward the enemy general. Only a single soldier realizes something just whipped past them. Seconds later, he says the general is dead. He walks away, the battle is over. He thinks it's a joke until chaos erupts. The commander pulls out his telescope to check for himself, only to find the general lying dead exactly where Shemar aimed. He's speechless. One spear thrust ended the whole battle. Only one casualty today, the enemy general. He returns home, the forest is safe. Sky rifts open, and towers emerge. He watches as his home is destroyed. Everything is gone. Now, Shemar still carries that heavy grudge. He'll show Mihail what true spearmanship is. Mihail realizes his opponent is the real deal and decides to go all out, powering himself up for a final clash. He draws from the surroundings. He unleashes a massive lightning storm right on Shemar. Watching from within, Kannagi is absolutely blown away by how fast and agile Mihail has become during this fight. He realizes the entire hall has become Mihail's domain, giving him a massive advantage over his opponent. However, Shemar remains unbothered. His mind drifts back to the soldiers he knew long ago, wondering if they ever saw their newborn children. Regret consumes him. He keeps thinking things would be better if he had more power back then. How many tragedies could he have stopped if he had been stronger? Facing these clusters once more, it just fuels his cold, burning anger. Every founder carries their own heavy, broken past. For some, that crushing guilt becomes a source of power. Even after centuries in that mausoleum, it's clear they will never forget what happened. This is the absolute main reason they've all been waiting for the crest of nothingness. The destroyer of tragedies. The one who will finally shatter every prophecy, and that man is Kannagi. Shima readies himself for battle, thanking Kannagi for finally giving them this chance. Meanwhile, Mihail is arrogant. He truly believes his black lightning speed gives him the ultimate upper hand. He is sure the flash and roar will leave Shima blind and deaf. He prepares to strike with everything he has. But Shima's spear erupts with a massive energy blast. It tears right through Mihil's chest, slamming him hard against the wall. There he hangs, defeated in the most pathetic way. Shima warns the clusters that his allies are all gearing up to win. The others are hungry for battle. But this rare chance to fight belongs to Shima alone. Shima makes it absolutely clear that there is no way he would ever let them do as they please. The dark infection begins to consume what is left of Mihil's body. A strange calm settles over him, and he has to admit Shima's spear skills are superior. Shima slowly approaches the dying man. "Do you have any final words?" Mihil pulls out a necklace begging Kannagi to deliver the chain to his sister. Kannagi takes it. Suddenly, the floor beneath Mihil gives way. He falls into the depths with his horse. In his final moments, he comforts his loyal steed one last time, as the darkness takes him. He spots Natasha's portrait and crawls toward it with failing strength, wishing he could have seen her crowned as queen. He reaches for her image. Then he turns to dust. Shima moves on, but Rowan drags him back. Looks like Rowan wants the next fight for himself. Elsewhere, Claude and Natasha are moving. The squad is pushing toward the throne chamber. Since Mihil was guarding the Great Hall, Claude realizes the enemy waiting for them in the throne room is none other than Natasha's own father. They step in and find the man just calmly playing the piano. Nikolai realizes that Mihil has finally fallen in battle. That's the only reason they were able to reach the throne room. Nikolai breaks into laughter, tears streaming down. To him, Mihil's death was just one big, hilarious tragedy. Natasha is absolutely livid, and just as she is about to charge in a blind rage, Midori steps in, telling her he will handle the fight. He reaches toward Nikolai, ready to engage him, but then it happens. Flashbacks of the innocent lives he took, while Number Zero controlled him, flood his mind. The mental agony is too much, and he collapses straight to the dirt. Midori groans in pain, realizing his body cannot forget the countless people he has slaughtered. This is the curse of Number Zero. Now, the mere thought of attacking another human is paralyzing for him. With Midori down, Nikolai lunges forward while the rest of the squad loses it. But as he closes the gap to Midori, he completely ignores him, asking Natasha for a hug instead. Natasha is not having it, coldly telling him she is no longer his child. She fires off her spark of light to catch him off guard, but somehow he dodges. Ryu strikes from the air, but he misses as well. Ryu is stunned. For a guy that huge, Nikolai is terrifyingly fast. Nikolai mocks his daughter, asking if that little spark is a new trick she picked up during her visit to Earth. He admits that power is dangerous for them because it messes with the clusters. This realization sends Nikolai into a fit of blind rage. He demands to know who taught her that power and where she learned it. Natasha refuses to talk, only mentioning it was the founder of the Wanderers. Everyone, including her own squad, stands there in shock. They never expected her to drop a founder's name. Enraged, Nikolai charges Natasha to end her right then and there. But Claude manages to pull her out of harm's way, just in time. Nikolai won't stop, though. He is obsessed with finding out where she learned that skill. Amidst his raging, Natasha simply tells the monster to look behind him. Rowan is already there, jaws wide open and ready to feast. It turns out Rowan is the founder of the dinosaurs. Her skill lets her reanimate the power of ancient dragons from myth and reality. Before Nikolai can even blink, Rowan's massive teeth clamp down, leaving him screaming in pure agony. While the beast is busy shredding Nikolai to pieces, the squad spots something weird moving inside its stomach. It is Kannagi. Seeing him there confirms this dinosaur is indeed a founder. Hanada panics, realizing Kannagi literally has the power to become a dinosaur, while the rest of the crew is losing their minds over this. Ryu, being the weirdo he is actually celebrating that there is a dinosaur right in front of him. Kannagi cannot believe how annoying this guy is, who cheers for a predator. Ryu starts geeking out, reciting every single fact he knows about dinosaurs. He even swipes Sokka's glasses just to get a better look. After a brutal struggle, Rowan finally rips Nikolai's head clean off. Claude cannot believe his eyes. To him, Nikolai was just like a toy. Now, Natasha prepares the finishing blow. Even as just a floating head, the guy somehow keeps weaving through every single attack. Natasha yells at him to quit dodging, but Nikolai. He just demands to know why she is using her powers against her own parents. Right then, the piano starts playing on its own, while Nikolai's head stays airborne. He screams at Natasha to stop, or things are about to get ugly. He threatens to perform a final funeral concert for everyone standing in his way. Suddenly, a blinding flash fills the room, and before anyone can blink, they see Nikolai's head fusing directly into those massive piano pipes. In a wild twist, he merges with the instrument to become a massive mechanical robot he calls the Divine Musical Soldier. But instead of being terrified, the squad is just weirded out because the whole thing looks incredibly lame. Nikolai brags that a Tyrannosaurus Rex might weigh 10 tons, but his piano weighs a massive 20 tons. Now he has the upper hand. Nikolai slams a devastating blow right into the dinosaur's side. The explosion of light is so intense, it looks like Kannagi is finally done for. But as the dust settles, they are stunned to find Nikolai is punch-blocked cold by a golden shield protecting Rowan's head. Basically, Rowan can turn her aura into a literal dinosaur body. Since she is fused with Kannagi's insane power, their size difference does not even matter anymore. Rowan hits back with a barrage of high-powered strikes, absolutely shredding through Nikolai's defenses. Nikolai coughs up blood, groaning. In total shock, because his supposedly invincible musical fortress is actually being torn apart. Even under this brutal assault, Nikolai refuses to lose and angrily prepares to unleash another massive wave of attacks. He frantically bangs on the piano, sending out a fresh wave of music. Meanwhile, the survivors scattered throughout the area hear the melody and instantly know it is Nikolai is playing. While people outside enjoy the tune, Midori's squad is clutching their ears in agony because the music is a sonic weapon. The sound pressure is brutal, and the entire sound wave is aimed straight at Kannagi. It is torture for Kannagi as blood leaks from his ears, and he doubles over. Seeing Rowan struggle, Hinoki steps in to give him a piece of her mind. She asks what he is doing, reminding him he is the king of the ancient world. Hinoki fires him up, telling him to get moving and reclaim his throne. That is the spark Rowan needs to reach a new level. He shifts into a velociraptor for max speed, while Kannagi stays cramped and miserable inside. Nikolai quickly realizes that Rowan's new speed is a huge problem. He just cannot aim his music accurately. Rowan leaps high into the sky, and Nikolai just laughs, claiming he gave up his ground advantage by jumping like that. Nikolai brags about his precision, shouting that even a flying dinosaur cannot escape his melody. But once Rowan is directly overhead, he shifts forms once more, and now, he shifts into a Brachiosaurus, the absolute titan of the prehistoric age, using every ounce of that massive frame. Rowan slams down, crushing Nikolai under 30 tons of pure, overwhelming prehistoric weight. Meanwhile, the clusters have finally pinpointed Kannagi's location on this planet. The cluster who once engaged Kannagi in a mental duel reveals that he once managed to infiltrate Kannagi's very soul. He brags about how close he came to total victory back then. But Natasha's interference ruined everything. Zal, another cluster, is beyond disappointed that their guy actually lost to Natasha. Then there is Kurt, who drops a bombshell. They just learned someone taught Natasha the lethal spark light technique. Another member, Zos, cuts in with visible fear, because spark light is the one skill that can instantly delete them from existence. Zal makes it clear to his allies that the situation is turning ugly fast, admitting that Kannagi is a nightmare variable because no matter what odds are stacked against him, he always finds a way to win. The black-clad cluster warns the group that as long as Kannagi is still breathing, their ultimate destruction in the future is basically a guaranteed reality they cannot escape. Zal turns to the dark figure and asks who is currently overseeing Alet. The answer is Voss, the quintuple husk, a name that carries some serious weight. He notes that Voss is currently draining the planet's core energy, gearing up for a massive showdown with Kanaga's entire squad. Zal is absolutely fuming over the current state of affairs, even suggesting he would love to head down there and cut Kanagi down with his own hands. But the man in black volunteers instead, driven by a deep curiosity to witness the singularity with his own two eyes. This figure Yell bows deeply before their king, a mysterious presence hidden behind a veil. He formally asks for permission to leave the assembly and begin his journey. The king grants the request, offering a blessing for a safe and successful trip. It turns out Yell holds the first rank among all clusters, feared and respected as their legendary returner. Back at Alet, Nikolai's head has been sliced clean in half, but just as the squad breathes a sigh of relief, the pieces start merging. Nikolai reforms into a twisted, smaller version of himself, whispering to Natasha that he has been waiting. He slowly crawls toward her, creepily suggesting that they play the piano one last time. However, just as his fingers reach for the keys, something happens. Nikolai crumbles into dust, vanishing just like Mihail. Claude is completely devastated by his boss's death, and the others expect Natasha to be crushed. She turns her back to her companions, hiding her face from view while coldly reminding them that they have to keep moving forward. Kanagi sees right through it. Natasha is forcing herself to stay brave and keep looking ahead. Even though it is painfully obvious how much it hurts to lose her family in such a way. Minutes later, the group finally reaches the very end of the castle. They step into the grand throne room, finding Anat waiting for them right on the throne. Shockingly, Natasha's mother does not look like a monster. She is not disfigured like her husband or son. Claude is stunned speechless. The woman actually praises Natasha for coming back. Claude, ever the loyal servant, bows deeply to his former mistress. Inside, Claude is desperate to believe Anta is still human, especially since her voice and looks are exactly as he remembers. He holds on to hope. Because since Carl managed to reclaim half of his own mind, he is certain Annette found a way to break the spell. Claude tells Natasha that her mother might be fine. Hearing this, Natasha steps off her mount. She walks toward her mother. All right, everyone else in the squad is convinced Annette is holding back the clusters through pure strength of will. Natasha's mother begs for forgiveness, explaining they were totally helpless when the clusters first invaded their home. She describes the tragic moment Mikkel and Carl tried to save them, only to be consumed by the swarm. Tears streaming. Eyes watering, the woman says she is just happy her daughter managed to reach the safety of Earth. While Natasha climbs the throne stairs, she makes a heavy vow to her mother. She says there is no need to worry because, as the final royal member of Alet, she is going to rebuild their entire world. Annette agrees, complimenting how much Natasha has grown, but Natasha immediately shuts her down. She isn't talking to Annette, but to her own mother, whose soul is currently trapped inside the body standing right before her. This supposed mother flashes a twisted, evil grin. Natasha screams in pure rage, demanding to know how she dares to use her mother's voice. Shaking with fury, Natasha shouts, asking how this creature dares to trample on the sacred pride of the Alet royal family. Natasha calls out the clusters, and the true monster hiding inside Annette finally shows its face. The creature reveals itself, proving that the cluster has been fully active since the very beginning. It lunges forward, attempting to skewer Natasha with those grotesque, insect-like limbs of hers. But Natasha is faster, activating her skill to instantly shatter those disgusting appendages. Unfortunately, the monster retreats into the air, mocking Natasha. She knows the skill well, since this is the second time she has tried to murder her parents. Natasha grinds her teeth, frustrated that she couldn't end this parasitic cluster right then and there. Suddenly, Kanagi taps Natasha's shoulder. When she turns around, we can see her shock at the crushing pressure radiating from him. Kanagi. With cold fury, he tells the cluster it should feel honored to have nested inside Queen Annette herself. Kannagi warns the monster that while they might not be able to save Annette and return her to normal, he has a different plan. He is going to incinerate every last one of them until only ashes remain of their filth. That massive aura pouring out of Kannagi, it's not his, it actually belongs to Mel's. Seeing the way Kannagi stands there and feeling that power, the creature instantly recognizes Mel's from 300 years ago. Still, the cluster sneers, boasting that it is nothing like the weaklings they have fought until now. It readies a devastating counterattack of its own. Mel's matches the energy, unleashing her burning light skill, which swallows the entire battlefield in a blinding flash. These clusters are essentially a massive hive of organisms, where that black goo acts as the individual cells for each cluster. In their hive, status is decided by how dense and pure those cells actually are. Facing the monster inside the queen means they are dealing with the absolute peak of the hive. This specific cluster is directly linked to the insect's main breeding factory, which means its density and purity are at a completely different level. After that massive blast, the queen turns to ash. But wait, the celebration is cut short. They realize the cluster is still perfectly fine, shielded behind yet another thick layer of goo. Mel's catches on. The creature hardened multiple layers of slime into solid armor to survive the heat. The queen cackles, mockingly asking if Kannagi is finished already, because that pathetic attack was honestly pretty disappointing. She begins thrashing Kannagi, tossing him across the battlefield like a ragdoll. She starts trash-talking him, claiming his weak body is why the founders can't reach their full potential. Kannagi completely ignores her. Once he's safely in the clear, he shouts for Midori to pull the trigger on the plan. Before the queen even realizes, Midori's crew zips right past while she is still tied up with Kannagi. You see, Rian had already mapped out a strategic battle plan for the whole team. Akin is the one assigned to analyze and shatter the massive barrier protecting that insect. By mixing turbulence with Natasha's spark light skill, they aim to wipe out everything in sight. Ryan points out the tower's secret connection. That massive insect at the top is draining the entire planet's energy to keep itself fed and strong. Ryan's logic is simple: reverse the energy flow back into the towers using that spark light. The founders will distract. While they keep the queen busy, the rest of the squad will dismantle that barrier. The plan clicks into place, and the queen finally understands they were targeting the insect this whole time. She desperately lashes out with her limbs to stop them. Kannagi deflects every strike, leaving her totally stunned by his speed and precision. Mel's tells her she's nothing, but this queen refuses to back down against some ancient ghosts. She fires off everything. Long-range attacks rain down on Kannagi, but Mel's isn't worried. She calls the queen out for thinking Kanaga's physical limits are holding them back. In fact, she makes it clear that the queen won't get anywhere near his friends. Mel's decides to stop holding back, chanting an incantation that ignites a blinding blue light. Now, about these incantations. It's basically drawing a magical blueprint onto the body to manifest a specific phenomenon. As the Mage of Truth, Mel's usually doesn't even need words to cast her spells. She's only chanting now because Kanaga's host body is still undergoing development. But look at the results. It is actually insane how Mel's can pull off this much raw power. By using the incantation, she bypasses the weakness of Kanaga's physical frame completely. The queen is fuming, shouting that magic is useless against her as she launches another desperate wave. Mel's doesn't even blink. The incantation finishes. She releases a massive ice spell, flash freezing the entire room and the queen mid-attack. Mel's explains there are plenty of ways to kill clusters, extreme cold being one. Since the queen is basically liquid cells, freezing her down to the core is a total death sentence. Never underestimate the founders. Their collective rage toward annoying clusters like her is boundless. The queen shatters. Mel's finishes her off with a fireball, ending her reign of terror for good. Meanwhile, you and I can see the squad still struggling against the barrier. With one final push, Akin shatters the seal and leaves the rest to her team. Kannagi arrives just then. He thanks Akin and tells the crew. The crew tells the others that it is finally time to end this fight once and for all. Since the barrier is already destroyed, the insect is exposed. If this were 300 years ago, it would be over. But little does Kannagi realize that the clusters have been evolving for a rematch against the founders. Deep inside Voss's husk, he hears the voice of Yell calling out to him. He tells Yell that his hatchling is nearly ready, so he can take on the enemies. Yell then warns Voss that these opponents are far too strong for him. So he decides to pull out his consciousness and fuse it with the empty husk. Voss agrees to the plan, as long as it ensures the cluster's prosperity. In that mental world, 1 second feels much longer than the outside world. Yet even with the time flow difference, something shocking happens in the blink of an eye. A sudden attack streaks from the husk, flying past Kannagi and Midori. This strike is so fast that a normal person wouldn't even notice it. Only Midori and Kannagi were able to catch even a faint glimpse of the projectile. Kannagi panics. There is no way he can stop it, even with his friend's help. The target is Akin. Kannagi quickly screams for Hinoki to step in and take over the defense. Since Hinoki's blade is faster than any thunderbolt, Kannagi trusts him to do the job. Taking charge, Hinoki delivers a blindingly fast slash to protect his teammate. He severs the tentacle before it impales Akin, but the attack was so deadly. It still leaves a jagged cut right across her chest. Hinoki immediately counters with a massive strike, destroying everything in his path with overwhelming force. As the dust settles, an empty cluster vessel emerges from the insect, leaving everyone in total shock. It should be impossible. They already defeated the royal family fused with that bug. Here is the cold reality of battle. When facing an impossible foe, people think wisdom and clever plans are enough to win. It is natural for them to think they are safe, to think they are the only ones growing stronger, while the enemy remains a target. However, that thinking is shallow. In reality, the enemy is improving and evolving every single day. This is a race for survival, where the fate of both species is at stake. Before reaching Aulit, Ryan held a meeting to share what he knew about the clusters. He revealed ancient secrets based on information from 300 years ago. First, these clusters drop massive towers across an entire planet's surface. The moment those towers touch down, they begin devouring the world's life energy like a sponge. Then, they use an insect linked to the towers to concentrate that power into one spot. Once they are done, they fuse the insect's core with local life to create the ultimate individual, basically the husk. While Ryan is busy explaining, Uryu whispers to Sokka that he hasn't understood a single thing Ryan has been saying. He is just way too dense to get it. So Sokka explains it simply. The clusters are parasites that drain a world's life. They consume a planet's living force just so they can reproduce. Ryan finishes the briefing by saying they have no clue what awaits on Aulit. But, looking at how the invasion kicked off 6 months back, he is certain that a husk could have already been formed. Suo speaks up, asking if this husk is actually powerful. Ryan nods, confirming their insane power level is actually split across 8 totally different ranks. Judging Suo's team by these brutal standards, Suo himself would barely even hit rank 8. And honestly, he reveals that Kannagi is 5th rank, while Midori is sitting at 4th rank at best. He warns them that if they encounter a 3rd rank or lower, they must retreat immediately. Ryan asks Natasha exactly how strong her family is, fearing they might have been used for fusion materials. Natasha admits her mother is actually the strongest, rivaling the total power of Suo when he is using his katana. That puts her at 6th rank, or even 5th in the worst-case scenario. With this, Ryan believes they still have a fighting chance, but his whole plan assumed that these clusters had not evolved at all over the last 300 years. But now, facing off against an actual husk, sweat pours down Ryan's face. It looks like his worst nightmare has finally come true. He is stunned to see these clusters can now create a husk without needing to fuse with local organisms, and that is not the only problem. Hinoki tells the squad that based on Ryan's earlier predictions, The enemy should be around 5th rank. But he warns them that last attack was actually 3rd rank strength. Ryan starts to panic when he hears those words. And his friend reminds him that 300 years have already passed. So making an accurate prediction based on old logic is basically impossible now. The husk finally speaks up, admitting he is impressed with this body. It can actually go toe-to-toe with the founders themselves. The creature greets Kannagi, telling him it has been quite a while. Kannagi is shocked this thing knows him. The monster reminds him that he is Yell, the very same Cluster who invaded his mind back home on Earth. Kannagi is completely frozen, realizing he is now facing such a terrifyingly powerful enemy. But as if that was not enough, a massive barrier traps Kannagi and Yell inside, completely cutting off the squad from helping their friend. Yell taunts Kannagi, saying that just as his friends cannot possibly help him now, he will not be able to save his friends either. Yell finally introduces himself to Kannagi and the gathered founders, leaving everyone speechless as he reveals he is actually a 1st-rank husk. Meanwhile, the rest of the team is panicking. They realize the barrier separating them is so incredibly powerful that even the founders' massive strength might not be able to shatter it. Suo asks Akin if she is able to break the barrier, and she tells him she is going to give it her best shot. They soon notice the cluster monsters are charging straight for the innocent civilians. And without a second thought, Natasha realizes she has to save her people. She charges toward them recklessly. Akin screams her name, knowing she is putting her own life in massive danger. But Midori takes charge, throwing up a shield for Akin. He tells the others to go after Natasha while he stays right here protecting her. Suo thanks Midori, telling him they are truly counting on him, while urging Akin to keep breaking down that barrier. Suo warns Akin that they're facing a boss-level cluster, which is absolute nightmare fuel, but she assures him she is already one step ahead. Actually, she can feel the massive pressure bleeding through the barrier with her own eyes. With things getting this dangerous, Akin can only pray that Kannagi holds on until she manages to finish tearing down this barrier once and for all. Back inside, Hinoki pushes past his fear, acknowledging that Yell, a rank 1 monster, is finally an opponent worth going all out against. Hinoki launches his skill straight at Yell, but Yell counters with a crushing blast that sends a massive shockwave through the entire zone. Yell doesn't budge, while Kannagi is sent flying back, though he manages a perfect landing on his feet. Hinoki's impressed, giving Yell props for being a lot better than he looks. But just as Hinoki prepares to go full throttle, Kanaga's body suddenly locks up, completely losing all its mobility. He is left wide open as Yell lunges forward. Hinoki's panicking, demanding to know why the body he is possessing just gave out. Ryan's screaming at him, telling Hinoki to get out of Kanaga's body this very instant. Hinoki snaps back, insisting they will never defeat this enemy if he leaves that body. Then, a sudden gale rips through as the pressure shifts. Just as Yell reaches for Kanaga's head, a heavy kick knocks his hand right off. Eiler arrived just in time to shield Kanaga's body from what would have been a fatal blow. She screams at the group, desperate to know what is happening to Kannagi. Ryan explains the synchronization rate is spiking way too fast. He warns Hinoki that he's already pushed Kanaga's physical limits way too far during the fight today. On top of that, Kannagi might lose his soul entirely if that synchronization rate keeps climbing higher and higher. Hinoki cannot believe they only have a time limit of 1 minute left. But he is more worried about what to do next, since they can't allow those clusters to touch Kannagi. Eiler says she managed to stop that last attack from Yell. But she knows she cannot keep this up forever. To make matters worse, Yell's attacks are fast as lightning, making Hinoki believe he is the only one who can handle this situation. He does not even finish his sentence before Shemmer whacks him on the head. Shemmer tells him to back off. The others still have more synchronization time left compared to Hinoki's limit. Shemmer orders Kalik to start forging some weapons for them. But Hinoki is skeptical that mere alchemy can help them against someone as fast as Yell. While they are busy bickering, Yell is closing the gap on Kannagi again. Eiler screams for them to make a move, and make it fast. Hinoki calls for Rowan to take over, hoping a dinosaur-shaped aura will provide enough defense to keep Yell from ever touching Kannaga's body. Rowan just shakes his head to show Hinoki that he is wrong. Skerner translates. Yell is moving faster than actual lightning, way beyond Rowan's speed. That dinosaur defense is absolutely nothing compared to what Yell can do. Skerner makes sure to throw in a nasty insult, though Hinoki knows that trash talk is 100% Skerner's doing. Hinoki is feeling the heat, totally clueless on how to survive, until Kannagi finally decides to step into the conversation himself. He lets them know he is fully aware his soul will vanish if he lets them possess his body for too long. Even with the massive risks on the line, our main character lets them know he still has a plan. Meanwhile, Yell is already talking trash, mocking them and calling their every movement slow and dull. He reminds them if Kannagi dies, Natasha and this entire planet are basically history. With Kannagi still down, Yell fires off a long-range blast, but just before it lands, something impossible happens. Kannagi vanishes and instantly reappears right behind Yell. Eiler is furious, asking whose attack he is calling dull before showing zero mercy. A brutal kick straight to his head. This sends Yell flying, but Kannagi is already there, closing the distance for another heavy kick. Yell feels the massive impact and realizes he is fighting Eiler, the absolute founder of kicks. But just then, Eiler's time limit with Kannagi runs out. Before Yell can react, Eiler switches out for Shemmer, who immediately strikes Yell's head with a powerful spear technique. Shemmer promises to finish what she started, finally giving Eiler a moment to breathe. It turns out Kannaga's plan is to rapidly swap founders, completely overwhelming Yell with high-speed constant attacks. But he lets them know that he will be the one deciding who gets switched. About those clusters, they are hive-mind organisms driven by a single desire to conquer everything in sight. Back at the start, they survived by baiting prey while desperately trying to hide from their own predators. They just wanted safe shelters to escape the extreme heat and cold. Eventually, they noticed that larger animals could actually conquer territories, thanks to those warm and hydrated bodies. The clusters realized they didn't have to starve or live in fear anymore. So, they began by taking over small animals as parasites. As they infected more of the land, their numbers exploded exponentially. Just as they finally conquered the entire land, highly intelligent beings landed on the planet in a rocket, searching for a path to the stars. This was the perfect chance for the clusters. Using the advanced technology of these visitors, the clusters began to conquer the whole planet. Next, they crossed the stars, traversing other dimensions and space-time itself. Soon, they ruled over the stars and became known as the star clusters. Finally, 10,000 years after their migration, these evil parasites arrived on Earth. The clusters were ready to conquer Earth like every other world. But they had no idea Earth held massive, hidden powers. Even worse, the founders were active and waiting for them. They handed the parasites their very first defeat. Back in the barrier, Shemmer is dismantling Yell with spear attacks, yet he keeps coming. We find out that Kalik actually created that spear. But Shemmer knows it is still too weak to block Yell's next strike. However, Shemmer uses a skill to deflect the hit and shatters half of Yell's head. He just smiles. That's when Shemmer realizes there are no internal organs inside that husk. To win, they will have to strike him in one long line instead of a single point. Mel jumps in, mentioning it would be better if frontliners like Eiler were actually in the fight. Shemmer tells them not to worry and calls on Margit to step up. Margit nods, turning to Kalik and telling him that it is all on him. Yell is completely stunned to see Kannagi draw a bow, wondering why he would choose such a slow weapon. But Garbett is already scanning the area and lets loose his first shot. Yell easily dodges the incoming arrow, thinking it is way too slow to hit. But suddenly, he realizes that every single arrow in the quiver has vanished. Before he can even process it, arrows pierce his body from every single direction. Yell is horrified, having absolutely no idea when Garbett even fired those shots. It turns out Garbett is just getting started here. And he triggers his secret skill, the arrow of the umbrella, causing the arrows to expand like an umbrella while still lodged inside Yell. This literally tears Yell apart. He has to admit that the Founder's skills are still incredibly potent, despite them only using a weak boy's body. It finally hits him. He is actually facing off against those legendary, annoying Founders. Yell regenerates quickly, realizing that he will be at a massive disadvantage if this fight continues for long. Which means he needs to finish Kannagi off with his very next strike. Meanwhile, Kannagi voices a strange concern to the rest of the group, mentioning how strange it is that Yell feels weak. Hinoki agrees, though the rest of the team is completely lost. Hinoki explains that if Yell really is a first-rank husk like he claims, he should be showing far more power than he is right now. Hinoki adds that based on the assessment from Rion, he is actually ranked 5th, making a fight against Yell completely impossible. Hinoki confirms that if Yell were truly a 5th-rank threat, he should be strong enough to challenge Hinoki even in his prime. Kannagi panics, realizing that Yell is actually incredibly strong. Hinoki continues, noting that Kannagi would have been ripped to shreds in an instant, and tells Rion that based on his direct experience in the fight, the guy should be at least rank 3. Rion is hesitant to believe that Yell was actually lying. Kannagi suggests that there is a high possibility that Yell shares the exact same kind of connection that he has with the Founders. Kannagi observes that Yell is currently occupying a rank 5 body. But deep inside lies Yell, the one who tried to kill his soul. Yell is a rank 1 currently controlling a rank 5 vessel, which explains why he is so powerful. Kannagi explains that his own current status is rank 5. And if their levels match, it means they only have a 5-minute time limit. Hinoki smiles, realizing this battle will be decided by either their own team, the legendary Founders, or Yell, that special first rank. However, Rion is deeply worried because he believes Yell is still hiding his full strength, especially since this specific husk type didn't exist 300 years ago. You and I can see Rion is wishing they had more cards in their hand. And Hinoki just smiles, reminding her that they still have some moves left. He turns to the introverted Founders sitting in the distance, telling them that it is finally their turn to be useful. The leader of the introverts, Heizama Yoshikatsu. Hinoki really has some nerve calling them introverts while they are playing cards, and he even threatens to end Hinoki right there. Long ago, back in 1992, before Awakenas even existed, Heizama is glued to his video game while his mom nags him to grab some groceries. He begs for just a few minutes until he can reach a save point. But she is not having it, threatening to toss his console right into the trash. This finally forces the guy to log off and leave. Suddenly, the errand sounds great once his mom mentions he can keep the spare change as pocket money. Moments later, while Heizama is heading home, massive towers suddenly start falling from the sky, obliterating everything. He watches in absolute horror as flames consume the world, but right before he dies, a portal opens up beneath him. Sucked through the rift, he lands in a field surrounded by others brought there to battle the terrifying clusters. As it happens, Earth had summoned its first generation of Awakenas the exact moment those towers struck the ground. These were the strongest humans, plucked from many different eras of history. Hinoki is the first one to approach young Heizama. He asks about his power, and a nervous Heizama admits his only skill is gaming. Cut to the present, where Hinoki and Heizama are still bickering. Hinoki snaps that this group of introverts never bothered to help train Kannagi like everyone else. Now that things are desperate, Hinoki demands that they finally make themselves useful for once. Heizama screams back, claiming they would have helped train the guy. If only Hinoki's squad had not been hoarding Kannagi all for themselves this whole time. Hinoki is not buying it. They could have joined any time, but they just stood back and mumbled. The truth is, these guys actually wanted to help. But being introverts made it nearly impossible for them to speak up. Heizama yells again, admitting they were terrified that Kannagi would just look down on them if they spoke. Amidst the shouting, Garbett roars for them to shut up and focus on the real threat. He tells Heizama to jump in now if he wants, because Yell is already getting used to his rhythm. Exactly as Garbett feared, Yell easily dodges the next massive wave of attacks. The monster sneers that he has already figured out Kannaga's body has hit its absolute limit under Garbett's control. Yell lashes out with a tentacle, snapping the bow and nearly taking off Kannaga's head. Kannagi barely survives the strike with a deep gash across his face. Yell is impressed that Garbett could still react to a hit like that. But he warns him that he will not have room to use that bow while defending. Kannagi panics as he realizes Yell was just testing out the raw power of a founder. Without making sloppy moves, Yell predicted every move, simply waiting for the perfect chance to land a killing blow. Meanwhile, the founders still cannot agree on a plan while Kannaga's life hangs by a thread. Heizama needs to switch. But as he approaches Kannagi, he finds himself struggling to find the right words. Things get even more awkward when Kannagi turns to look. Heizama starts shaking like a leaf. He nearly snaps when Kannagi addresses him. Kannagi is just confused, having no clue what is going on. Heizama finally stammers out a nervous reply. He tells Kannagi they have always been watching. The other introverts, they are basically dying of second-hand embarrassment. They are just praying their leader, Heizama, can somehow smooth this over. Still stuttering, he asks if they can borrow Kannaga's body for the fight. Kannagi is shocked they want to join him. Heizama gives a super shaky nod. He worries it will be tough since Kannagi does not even know who they are. But Kannagi stops him right there. He knows exactly who they are. Everyone freezes as Kannagi drops Heizama's full name. Then he turns to the masked guy, calling out the name Mujin Inari. The girl in purple, Nemi Nefront, the nunchuck specialist, Huo Longyan. Takamura Keiji, the guy with the wooden weapon. And the pink-haired Luciana Glitchspear. You and I can see they are absolutely floored he knows them. It is clear he has been their biggest fan this whole time. He admits he has looked up to them forever. They are his favorite founders, period. He flashes a massive, genuine grin and asks them to lend him their legendary power, which leaves the whole crew in tears. Heizama pulls the squad into a tight circle. Kannagi gave them the ultimate motivation. Now, it's time to fight. Back in the heat of the battle, Yell lunges at Kannagi, but his tentacle melts away like it hit pure acid. He notices the aura around Kannagi is shifting into something else entirely. Heizama has officially taken the wheel of Kannaga's body. He is rocking a sword and shield now. The rest of the quiet crew is ready for war. Heizama charges Yell with everything he has got, aiming for a lethal slice. Yell just dances away, wondering if this is some kind of desperate bait. Yell whips out a tentacle in a sharp counterattack. It nearly takes Kannaga's head off, but he manages to duck just in time. Yell stays on the offensive, keeping Heizama on his toes. Meanwhile, inside the mind space, Eiler is worried. She asks Hinoki if Heizama can really pull this off. Hinoki wonders why she is being so negative. She admits she has never actually seen these shy guys in a real fight before. Luciana snaps back, telling Eiler to shut it and watch. Heizama would not lose to her, let alone this guy. Eiler quickly backpedals, saying she did not mean to discredit the guy. Then Kannagi chimes in. He reminds Eiler that Heizama is a founder for a reason. He is a beast. Hinoki gets it. He tells everyone to relax and witness how a true hero gets it done. 300 years ago, back when the founders hung out while everyone else partied, the introverts were busy playing cards. Heizama was always the most hyped during those card games. But he would lose every single time, screaming about his friends cheating. He once hit a legendary losing streak, 12 times in a row. While he is throwing a fit, someone points out the new girl, Luciana. She had only arrived recently. While the other founders party, Luciana hides behind a tree. She is basically the definition of an introvert. Since Heizama is their leader, the other shy guys pressure him to recruit her into their quiet little squad. Heizama slowly builds up the courage to approach Luciana. He offers her a spot in their card game. Luciana is totally blindsided by the invite. Why would anyone suddenly want her around? She is just about to snap at him and tell the guy to get lost. But then she sees it. He is shaking like a leaf. Approaching her was a massive challenge. Realizing she finally found her own kind, Luciana accepts and joins them. Back in the present, though, Heizama is getting absolutely pushed to his limit by Yell. His movements look graceful, almost like a beautiful dance. But Yell notices his strikes have zero weight behind them. He is not even worried. To him, Heizama is just an amateur compared to powerhouses like Garbett and Shemmer. Yell keeps up the pressure, whipping his deadly, massive tentacles around the field. The monster finally finds an opening and lunges at Heizama from behind. But just as the lethal blow is about to land, Heizama spins around and catches the attack perfectly on his shield. Yell is stunned. How did he block that? It seems Heizama pumped his shield full of concentrated aura. Before the monster can even blink, Heizama slashes through his midsection, cutting him clean in half. The loud, extroverted founders are left speechless. Meanwhile, Yell is starting to realize something terrifying. His worst fears are confirmed. Heizama is not just some weakling, he is a master of aura control. With a chilling, dark expression, Heizama reveals that his blade is coated in deadly poison. The extroverts are shaking in their boots because Heizama looks like a total demon right now. Even Eiler is stunned, wondering what kind of hero this guy actually is. Hinoki just laughs, revealing the truth. Heizama had zero combat experience before being teleported to this world. He was just a normal student, and honestly, he was even weaker than Kanagi at the start. But he transformed after surviving Hinoki's brutal, non-stop training sessions. Hinoki admits that Heizama might be a whiny crybaby sometimes. But when a real battle starts inside the tower, he never backs down. Even when his legs are shaking and he is scared to death, he suppresses that fear and keeps pushing forward no matter what. Hinoki tells everyone that Heizama is a true, courageous hero at his core. The battle rages on. The sheer pressure of fighting Yell is overwhelming, and Heizama's body is trembling again. He knows he cannot last much longer. But then he remembers Kanagi trusted him with his own body despite the impossible odds they are facing. Just as his knees buckle, he hears the introverted squad screaming for him to keep going. They are counting on him to lead them through this madness. Kanagi speaks up too, apologizing because his own weak body is making this fight so much harder for Heizama. Still, Kanagi wants to save Natasha and everyone else. He is putting all his faith in Heizama right now. Between Kanagi's words and the support of his team, Heizama finds the strength to stand tall once again. With a determined smile, he charges at Yell, perfectly blending his sword and shield techniques into one. Yell watches in pure terror as the gap between them closes in seconds. Heizama drives that venomous blade deep into his enemy. Yell realizes too late that his body is slowing down. Even without using Sparklight, it turns out that poison is incredibly effective against his kind. This fight is far from over. Yell starts taunting Heizama, mocking him for getting so soft since 300 years ago. But Heizama slams him back with a massive shield charge, retorting that he's the one who's actually gone soft. Heizama flashes a grin, relishing the fact they've finally got a real fight going. Right then, Yell starts panicking, unsure if Heizama is actually trying to trap him against that lethal, poison-coated shield. Deep down, he's convinced he can flip the script because he thinks he's already figured out Heizama's pattern, but out of nowhere, his arms are ripped apart. He's absolutely stunned, unable to tell if another founder jumped in or if Heizama just swapped weapons mid-strike. It's actually Inari taking the lead now, unleashing twin short swords to give Kanagi a massive speed boost. Once Inari tags out, Luciana steps up, shredding Yell with a series of brutal whip strikes. Then Nemi leaps into the fray, followed immediately by Hugh joining the beatdown too. Before Yell can even react, he's being torn to shreds as Kanagi swaps forms in milliseconds to unleash a relentless combo, leaving him zero room to strike back. That's when Yell realizes that Kanagi is a different beast compared to the guy who fought those insects on Earth. With Yell wide open, Kanagi tags in Kenji, giving the order to end him for good. Kenji unloads his most destructive strikes on Yell, obliterating his cells so he can't even attempt to regenerate. As Yell's body crumbles into nothingness, he shrieks Kanagi's name in pure terror, realizing he's been forced to push the husk to its breaking point. With Yell gone, the introverted squad starts cheering for their victory. But they have no clue that, while they were busy finishing Yell, the planet's self-destruct sequence was already triggered. Now look at this, Suo and the others are still fighting for their lives, trying to thin out the monster horde as much as possible. Back inside, Kanagi starts feeling the heavy strain of hosting the Founder's spirits for such a long time. Suddenly, a massive tremor shakes the very earth, making Kanagi realize something is seriously wrong, since that barrier is still up even after Yell's death. Right then, a mysterious voice rings out right next to him, catching him off guard. He demands an identity, and the man introduces himself as Voss. He lets Kanagi know he is actually the original master of that husk they just destroyed, and after witnessing the entire showdown against Yell, he's confirmed that Kanagi possesses a massive arsenal of different weapons and secret techniques. Kanagi pauses for a second to process this, but Voss cuts through his thoughts, revealing that he's the high commander of all clusters on this planet. As it happens, he's also the one responsible for that inescapable barrier. Kanagi asks why he's even showing his face after seeing someone much stronger than him get taken down. Voss replies that he simply wants to reward his warrior spirit by revealing a secret. Wait for it, he's already forced the planet's core into total, violent instability. While the Founders don't fully grasp the technical side, they can tell this is extremely bad news. Ryan is the only one who catches on, explaining the grim reality of what Voss is saying. He's sabotaged the planet's core so badly that it's going to detonate from within, turning this entire world into fine cosmic dust. Kanagi panics at the news, demanding to know why Voss would even consider doing something so insane. Voss makes it clear he is taking these extreme measures just to ensure Kanagi finally stays dead this time. He admits the planet's energy core is incredibly valuable to their people, but they're willing to sacrifice it all just to take Kanagi down. Kanagi can't believe it. The clusters are actually willing to go this far just to eliminate him. Voss tells him to feel honored. After all, they had to pull out every stop just to kill him. The entire planet begins to tremble as natural disasters strike from every single direction. Natasha immediately orders Claude to protect the people. She senses that this chaos is definitely not a natural disaster. Meanwhile, she can't help but wonder if Kanagi is doing all right. Back inside the barrier, Voss launches a projectile. Kanagi tries to block, but the impact sends him reeling in pain. Voss reminds him that he is already weakened after his intense battle with Yell, adding that he'll keep playing with his food until the planet finally blows sky-high. Before Kanagi can even catch his breath, another blow lands. Voss admits he might not be as powerful as Yell was, but he's confident he can stall long enough for the planet to be completely destroyed. Even so, Voss notes he would still prefer to kill him before the whole planet explodes. As Kanagi continues to suffer, Hinoki desperately urges him to switch with any founder he can. If he continues like this, he's definitely going to die. Kanagi takes another brutal hit and gets slammed into the ground, blood spilling from his mouth in agony. He gasps to Hinoki that switching just isn't an option anymore. Rin is panicking. He knows Kanagi is battered from the fight against Yell and has reached his limit. On top of that, he's already carried the heavy burden of switching with over 10 founders today. His mind is at its breaking point. The only real solution is to defeat Voss, shatter the barrier, and get back to Earth as fast as possible. But Kanagi refuses to agree. He tells them that saving themselves means nothing. He makes it clear to every single one of them that he doesn't care what happens to his own body as long as he can save Natasha's planet. Kanagi groans in absolute pain, wondering if he's really going to lose everything, even after giving his all to defeat a first-rank opponent. Tears stream down his face as he slowly begins to accept his defeat. Right then, a familiar voice calls out from beyond the barrier, telling him that he did a great job. In a stunning twist, the barrier shatters into pieces, finally freeing Kannagi from his confined prison. As he collapses, Akin catches him. She's the one who just dispelled that barrier. She holds Kannagi close, whispering how relieved she is that she managed to break it just in time. Voss, on the other hand, can't believe Akin just shattered his strongest barrier. Still, he's certain Kannagi has nowhere left to run. He pours everything into one final strike, charging directly at both Kannagi and Akin. However, his luck finally runs out. Midori intercepts the attack, looking absolutely furious because Voss doesn't even have a human appearance anymore. With Midori showing up, Voss is suddenly gripped by an overwhelming fear, instinctively switching to a defensive stance before he even realizes why. Since he was born as a cluster, Midori's rage is a nightmare. For the first time, he knows true fear as she tears him apart with sheer, overwhelming force. 45 minutes after touching down on the surface, Kanaga's squad finally takes down the big bad, but they only have 3 minutes before the entire planet explodes. Meanwhile, Sokka and Uryu finish the evacuation just as the protective barrier finally shatters. They thought the danger was over, but the ground beneath them begins to scream. Even the survivors can tell everything is about to go south very fast. Uryu is panicking, but Sokka admits that despite their best efforts, the world is likely doomed. Deep down, Sokka feels the crushing weight of disappointment after fighting so hard to save this place. He is frustrated that his and Uryu's incredible powers were not enough to ensure every single person got out safely as they planned. Sokka is drowning in guilt when Uryu suddenly calls out to him beside Natasha. Natasha steps in to tell them that she checked the area and everyone is safe, all thanks to their heroic actions. She immediately charges back into the fray, energized by the hope these two gave her. Her confidence rubs off on Sokka, finally bringing a small smile to his face. Natasha rushes to Kanaga's side, just as the exhausted leader tries to stand. Barely clinging to consciousness, he apologizes for failing to save her home from this terrible fate. But Natasha stops him, insisting that there is still one last way to save the planet. When Kannagi asks how, she reveals a secret from 300 years ago. Earth's founders proved that planets have their own will, and she believes Sparklight can help her talk to it. It is a long shot based on a maybe, but it is all they have. Kannagi and Akin are stunned that she is gambling everything on a mere possibility right now. Defending her plan, she explains that while she has never tried this, the legendary founder of Wanderer personally taught her the secret technique. Natasha is convinced of one thing. The tower where that massive insect lived must lead straight to the planet's deepest core. If she can reach the center and unleash her sparklight, she might just wake the world up. Since only a native can enter that sacred space, she tells the group she must go alone. She begs them to trust her with the rest. But before she can leave for her mission, Kannagi hands over the necklace that her brother left behind for her. He regrets holding onto it for so long, but he finally shares the final message. He tells her exactly what Mihil said before letting go. That message brings a smile to her face as she blasts off with total determination to succeed. Approaching the core's entrance, she puts the necklace on while remembering everything the clusters stole from her. After all the immense pain and loss they have caused her family, she is absolutely not ready to lose her world today. With only 2 minutes until the final explosion, Natasha flies through the tunnels only to find a swarm of clusters blocking her path to victory. The situation is desperate, and she knows she cannot waste any time fighting because her precious sparklight levels are already running dangerously low after today's battle. She hates the idea of being a useless princess who cannot protect her people despite gaining such power. Since she couldn't handle this alone, she had to rely on Earth's legendary heroes. She still remembers that moment of shock when Kannagi and his crew promised their full support. She couldn't believe even Midori was helping. She asked why they'd risk everything for a planet with no connection to them. This world, it meant absolutely nothing to any of these Earth warriors. Suo calls it the bond of teammates, and Hanada totally agrees with that. Akin explains that losing someone creates a pain that drives you to help others, just like her. Midori, on the other hand, says he is repenting for his sins, while Sokka is just following his own personal goals. Uryu admits he isn't exactly a fan of walking into a dangerous place. But he finds Natasha way too cute to leave her behind like that. Then there's Kanagi, he says he doesn't know, which leaves the whole group stunned. He mentions the furious founders inside him, and those memories Natasha showed him left a mark. Right then, Kanagi makes it his personal mission to stop her tears. The rest of the squad can't believe their captain is talking such total nonsense. But Kanagi ends it simply, he just really likes seeing her smile. Now, as Natasha charges straight into the heart of the danger zone, she realizes this squad gives her courage. They've always helped her, and now she'll do the same. Just as she prepares to dive into the very center of the chaos, Claude appears out of nowhere, clearing a path with his skills. Natasha is shocked to see her butler appear just when all hope seemed lost. With a calm smile, Claude promises to handle the clusters so Natasha can focus on saving the entire planet. Natasha pushes forward into the core, finally spotting the target she needs to destroy right now. She gathers every bit of energy for one final, massive sparklight against the cluster. But as she reaches out to touch it, jagged cluster spikes suddenly impale her body. Coughing up blood, she's devastated. The realization hits she failed at the very last second. Just then, her brother's necklace falls onto the cluster, a tiny spark of light that brings hope back to her. With this, Natasha shatters that wall of despair, pushing through the pain to finally touch the cluster. Her final sparklight explodes, shattering the cluster's power and breaking the spikes buried in her chest. A light so blindingly bright erupts that even Claude, standing far away, is nearly blinded by the flash. Outside, Uryu and the others are panicking as the situation spirals out of control. They see the clusters swarming the tower core, but Midori swoops in and wipes them off. That's when a massive beam of light strikes the planet, leaving everyone in absolute shock. The civilians are totally terrified, believing this blinding light is actually a final weapon from the enemy. The radiance only gets stronger, swallowing everything in sight until, at the end, a massive bang erupts, vaporizing every alien presence and finally purifying the entire world. When the glow finally fades, Hanada and Suo are stunned to see that every cluster has been completely erased. Akin wakes Kanagi to show him the incredible view. He realizes Natasha actually saved her world. Later on, Natasha wakes up to a golden morning, and Akin is right there to welcome her back. She is stunned to be alive, and suddenly, a heavenly aroma fills the entire air. Looking straight ahead, she sees Kanagi busy cooking a massive pot of soup. Using Hinoki's skills, he minces ingredients with insane speed, while Takajunza, the legendary founder of Chinatown, takes over the kitchen. In no time at all, the chef finishes the meal and tells the crew to start serving it. Claude grabs a massive platter to serve it out to the hungry survivors. He tells the kids not to rush, since there is plenty of food for everyone. Soon after, Suo and Hanada return with fresh meat and fish for a second food source. Toki is thrilled and gives the order for them to get started. Drain all that blood for the appetizers, while the rest of you handle the fish. With the meat sliced up, Toki tells Suo to glaze it with sauce, while Hanada preps the fish. Toki tells Akin to start crafting more plates for them immediately. Natasha is completely bewildered by the scene and demands to know what the hell they are all doing. Hanada says they are just cooking, and Akin notes they are definitely short-staffed. Natasha stands up, seeing her people are finally eating to their heart's content. These starving children are moved to tears by the simple joy of finally eating a proper meal. Still cooking, Toki calls for those who are injured. The Valentine healer is ready to help them. Kanagi lets Natasha know it was a close call. It turns out the healer poured every bit of her soul into saving Natasha, but Kanagi was the one who collapsed afterward. After a short rest, he shared his body with a legendary founder, putting Toki in charge of the food for now. Natasha ignores the food, searching the horizon for those dangerous clusters. But to her shock, there is not a single tower left on the planet. She is stunned, but Kanagi simply praises her. He tells her that she was the one who erased them, and finally, the sky over all it is bright blue again. Since there is nothing left to fear, Kanagi tells Natasha to enjoy her meal with her people. A sweet little girl approaches Natasha with a warm plate and a smile, begging the princess to sit and eat with her. This simple gesture makes Natasha extremely emotional. She cries tears of pure joy while accepting the child's offer. Suddenly, Uryu screams a warning to Kanagi. They have a huge problem with new refugees pouring in from everywhere. But Kanagi doesn't care, and Toki is eager to make food for every person he can. In no time, Toki has prepared a hot meal for every single new arrival, and they are all so thankful to be alive. Even Natasha admits she has never tasted food that was this delicious. Even the shyest founders wish they had their own bodies to taste Toki's incredible cooking. Kanagi promises that he will give everyone a turn to use his body. The introverts are thrilled, and Heizama immediately makes a bet. Whoever wins the next round will be the one who eats first. Luciana is confident because she knows Heizama. He is definitely going to eat last, since he is a total disaster when it comes to games. Meanwhile, Hinoki notices Mel smiling and asks what is so funny to her. Mel shrugs it off, telling her it is nothing serious. But she was actually caught up in the nostalgic moment. She reminds Hinoki that 300 years ago, post-battle meals were their favorite ritual. Hinoki agrees that a good meal after a massive fight is essential, and then he starts walking away into the distance. Mel asks where he is heading, and Hinoki simply says he needs to clear his head. He reminds them that Yell survived, and Hinoki is already planning to be the one who finally crushes that annoying cluster when they next cross paths. Over with the clusters, they have learned of Yell's loss, but they are not shocked since he used that weak husk. One of the clusters starts joking about exactly how she is going to mess with Yell once he returns home. But then she remembers a certain prophecy she left on Earth, and now it is time for her to see it. Days after the chaos on All It, Akin and Kanagi begin the massive job of rebuilding the entire broken world. Constructing new homes and infrastructure to finally make life better for the survivors. Kanagi gives Akin props for her transmutation, noting how much she has improved. Akin snaps back that alchemy is her specialty, and she will not lose to Kanagi and his cheating ways. Uryu points toward a massive, jagged crack in the ground and asks Sokka what it is. Sokka assumes it is from the quakes, though he wonders how deep it goes. Suddenly, water begins rushing down the ravine. Hanada appears, revealing he just literally redirected the entire flow of the local river. Uryu's brain basically short-circuits as he tries to understand the sheer absurdity of what he is seeing right now. Hanada casually mentions that the river will work perfectly as a new source of fresh water. Apparently, he heard some rumors about a stream on the other side of the massive mountain. So he just carved out a 10-kilometer path through the earth to get it here. Uryu is speechless, wondering if this guy is actually some kind of terrifying, overpowered monster in human skin. Kanagi joins the group, asking Hanada where they can find Suo. Hanada explains that Suo is still busy clearing some fallen trees near the water. Right then, Suo arrives carrying a mountain of lumber, asking if this is enough. And the madness doesn't stop there. As Uryu and Sokka watch Midori use his powers to clear away the planet's wreckage, Uryu finally realizes he is hanging out with a bunch of scary people. Kanagi is happy with all the supplies they have gathered, telling her they just need to finish up the main waterway so the people have their basics covered before the team can finally head back home. Kanagi then asks where Natasha went, and Akin points him toward the direction of the old ruined castle. Akin suggests he should go have a heart-to-heart with Natasha before they leave, and Kannagi agrees to go. Akin, on the other hand, heads down to find the kids and suggests they all grab a meal together. A bit later, Kannagi finds Natasha and Claude silently staring at what is left of the castle. Natasha says she is sorry for not helping out with the camp construction earlier. Kannagi, however, offers his own sincere apology, admitting they destroyed so much, but Natasha insists that it really does not bother her at all. But she explains to Kannagi that since her birth, she has always been surrounded by her family, and this ruin is her final chance to feel close to them. With deep respect, Natasha and Claude bow low before Kannagi. She expresses her deep gratitude to Kannagi and his entire team for their heroics. Kannagi is stunned, wondering why she is doing this so suddenly. Natasha simply smiles, reminding him that he is the savior of their entire world. With burning resolve, Natasha vows to pay back every bit of that debt. Kannagi tries to stop her, thinking she is promising way too much already. She even plans to build giant bronze statues for every member of the Kannagi squad to honor them forever. But Kannagi cringes at the thought. He begs her not to do it because it would be way too embarrassing. Natasha won't budge. She insists that it must be done so the people of this planet never forget him, no matter how many generations pass by. Totally overwhelmed by her words, Kannagi reaches out and firmly shakes Natasha's hand, thanking her for the kind gesture. As night falls, the squad makes their way to the gate, ready for home. The locals can't believe it. Are their heroes really leaving them? They start pleading with the squad not to go. It is too soon for a final goodbye. Even the kids are in tears, crying that they want more time to play. The whole scene turns into a massive, emotional mess. Even Uryu starts whining, telling Kannagi he wants to stay one more week. But Sokka has had enough. One quick punch and he is dragging the idiot back. Akin faces the crowd, explaining that they have to leave because they have their own home world to protect, too. Hinata promises they will visit again. In response, a massive roar of gratitude erupts from the people, thanking the squad for their help. Right then, Claude drops a bombshell, suggesting that Kannagi should just marry the princess. This immediately triggers a fresh wave of chaos. In his defense, Claude reminds Kannagi that he saved their nation. He also brings up what Kannagi said about wanting to dry Natasha's tears once and for all. The crowd goes wild. Everyone is absolutely on board with what Claude just proposed. But Natasha steps in to settle them down, reminding everyone that she and Kannagi do not have the time for romance right now. Kannagi agrees. They still have to protect Earth from the clusters, which is why they must leave. Natasha nods, vowing to put all her strength into rebuilding the kingdom of Aulit. Claude warns them of the long road ahead, but they both look him in the eye. They are prepared for anything. They finally step onto the teleportation gate to head home. The crowd sends them off with smiling faces and hearts full of thanks. Flash, the squad lands back at the Founder's Mausoleum. Uryu is already cheering that they are finally back on Earth. Sokka just rolls his eyes. Wasn't this the same guy begging to stay in Aulit just a minute ago? Akin is relieved it's over. With things finally settled, Kannagi admits he would love to go back for a visit once life calms down. Hinata reminds him that they can visit that world whenever they want. In that moment, Kannagi thinks back to Natasha's words about family. He tells everyone he needs to go see his mother. The team is caught off guard, but Midori points out that his place is actually quite close. Midori tells him to go ahead, promising to take care of all the boring paperwork herself. Kannagi is relieved, mentioning he needs to catch up with Rui too. Kannagi takes off, running fast, hoping to see a bright smile on his mother's face once he gets back home. Little does he know, a second-rank cluster named Ella is already descending to Earth to test a prophecy. She has somehow found Kannagi, and she's already itching for a fight. Just 2 minutes after landing back on Earth, Kannagi gets a call from Rui, who's scolding him for hiding their return. Rui mentions he only went to check the mausoleum because it was glowing so bright, but by the time he arrived, nobody was left. He lets Kannagi know just How incredibly worried he's been, while Kannagi explains he just had to see his family before reporting. Hearing this hits Kannagi hard, reminding him of his late father. He agrees to meet Rui later since his mom is likely lonely. A bit later, Kannagi makes it home, leaving his mother absolutely shocked and overjoyed to see him. Without wasting a second, his mother starts his laundry and heads to the kitchen to prepare a meal. She tells Kannagi he really should have called ahead, because she would have prepared a proper, delicious feast for him. Kannagi just offers an apology, explaining his mission was nearby, so he decided to drop by on a whim. He almost lets it slip that Midori is actually still alive, but manages to catch himself at the very last second, claiming instead that his leader gave him special permission to visit. The whole world believes Midori is dead, and Kannagi isn't about to change that narrative for his mother. Toki mentions that he would really like to show some gratitude to his mother by cooking, but Kannagi just offers to help her in the kitchen himself. His mother rejects the help, insisting she can handle it, mostly because she doesn't think Kannagi knows how to cook. While waiting for his mother to finish, Kannagi realizes how fast time flies. It feels like only yesterday when Midori showed up at his house to recruit him for the agency. Moments later, his mother finishes the meal, and he warmly thanks her for the hard work. He takes a bite with a bright smile lighting up his face. He finally tastes his mother's soup again. His mind is usually racing with missions, but right now, he is finally at peace. At this moment, he feels totally relieved. While eating, his mother just stares at him, soaking in the joy of seeing her son in person. She's heard news about him, but seeing him is different. She suddenly notices something about his appearance. She says he looks great and asks if work is going well for him. Kannagi just nods, explaining that his work is top secret, but he has definitely been staying incredibly busy with all the missions. He tells her about his new friends and how, despite the many challenges, life as a hunter is even more fulfilling than he imagined. He is truly glad he became a hunter. His mother is thrilled, then brings up the money he's been sending home every month. Kannagi worries it's not enough, but she quickly corrects him, it's actually way too much. With pure shock on her face, she tells Kannagi the amount feels like his entire annual salary, asking if he even keeps any money for himself. Kannagi explains that the money is only half his salary, since he simply doesn't have any free time to spend it on himself. His mother nearly has a heart attack realizing her son earns her yearly salary in just 1 month. Reality finally sinks in. Hunters, they really are on another level. Kannagi warns her though, this life is full of constant danger. After finishing his meal, Kannagi stands up, ready to head out. He mentions he's meeting Rui at the mausoleum for an important talk. His mother asks what he wants for dinner before he leaves. He says he wants tonkatsu. She is secretly stunned, rushing out right after eating. That is just like his younger self. It takes her back to his elementary school days during summer vacation. As Kannagi makes his way toward the mausoleum, Cage sees Heizama's face go dark. He asks what is bothering the guy. He says he is just jealous. Kannaga's timeline mirrors his own too closely. Heizama asks if Cage misses home. Honestly, he confesses that he does. He reveals he was working a part-time job when he got summoned. Right then, Heizama notices Hinoki is missing. Melz explains he is actually deep inside the rift. Heizama loses it. He did not expect anyone in their right mind to enter that place. Melz drops a reality check. They are already dead, remember. Besides, she believes training in the rift is the best way to sharpen minds. Melz makes it clear, it is imperative they prepare for the final battle. Meanwhile, Hinoki is already challenging the various dudes inside the rift. The guys there are thrilled to see him back after such a long time. Hinoki tells them the clusters are evolving and getting much stronger. He can't sit around, he needs to push his mind to the limit, the leader of the Rift guys. Melville, the legendary founder of the Monster Slayers, steps forward. He laughs out loud, welcoming Hinoki to this lost world of carnage. Soon, Kannagi arrives. Rui doesn't waste a second. He wants the full story on what happened in All It. He offers some advice, but Kannagi has a specific question. Does he know the founder of the Wanderers? Rui is completely shocked by the question. Kannagi explains that they absolutely need to find this mysterious founder. They need a skill that will finally help them defeat those deadly clusters. Elsewhere, in the remains of the Rank 1 prophecy, known as Snowball Earth, the area stays quiet under the supervision of the Anti-Prophecy Agency. Agent Kasha mentions the temperature is dropping. He asks his partner Ray about it. Suddenly, a mysterious girl named Ella appears. Kasha demands to know who she is. He warns that normal people aren't allowed here, so she must leave. Ella just laughs. Being called a normal person is the funniest thing ever. She releases a massive aura to prove she is anything but ordinary as she prepares to strike. There's no mercy here. She proceeds to attack them with the sole intention of killing them. She fires a powerful dark blast at them. Kasha frantically taps the emergency button on the collar, praying that someone will save them. Just as the end seems certain for the two agents, a sudden burst of turbulence from Midori saves their lives. Midori appears in the sky, demanding to know who she is. Ella's only response is that she is a second-rank husk. Meanwhile, at the Mausoleum Library, Rui has gathered every single book he knows that might help with what Kannagi is searching for. However, he is still doubtful that a founder of the Wanderer even exists. All right, he breaks the news that there isn't a single book in the library mentioning anything at all about this mysterious founder. Kannagi isn't backing down. He knows that founder is real, since Natasha said he is the one who taught her about Sparklight. He tells Rui that finding this founder is their only real shot at actually beating the clusters. But then, Skirnir calls out. Kannagi is stunned. Why is this lone wolf reaching out to him now? Skirnir warns him to contact his friends fast. He is picking up strange feedback through the shared crest he has with Midori. Kannagi is reeling from the news. But Skirnir hasn't even finished his warning when the squad rings in. They're already on the move, pushing full speed ahead toward the mausoleum. Kannagi sprints outside to meet the squad. They've arrived in a ride that seemingly spawned from thin air. Akin screams at him to get in right now. Midori is in serious trouble. Exactly 5 minutes ago, the team realized Midori had vanished, sparking a frantic and desperate search for his location. Sokka is the one who tracks him down. Thanks to the foresight of placing markers in several key locations, including this one. With the marker set, he can teleport the entire group there instantly. As he suspects, Midori responded to a desperate distress call from the agents stationed on the ground. Sokka warns that something dark and ominous is happening on that mountain again. Exactly as feared, Midori is having a brutal time against Ella. He is bleeding out while she is just casually playing with her food. She mocks him, asking how the supposedly strongest person in the world can be this pathetic. Sheltered inside the safety of Midori's turbulence, Kasha and Ray offer a tearful apology. They never expected to face an enemy with this level of overwhelming power. Despite his brutal injuries, Midori tells them it's not their fault. He looks them in the eye and promises that no one is dying on his watch. There are two major things currently holding Midori back. Starting with the crushing weight of psychological trauma after his past massacres. Fighting human-type enemies has become a mental nightmare for him. And second, he's prioritizing the safety of Kasha and Ray, his late friend Makoto's former elite teammates. Because of these handicaps, Midori is totally overwhelmed by Ella and her insane gravity powers. She's systematically shutting down every single move he tries to make. Midori realizes the terrifying truth. Ella is nearly on the same level as Mel's. He barely avoids being crushed into paste. And that massive crater she left behind shows the true devastation of a second-rank power. Ella scolds him, calling this fight a total bore compared to her epic war against the Founders over 300 years ago. Gasping for air, Midori asks what she is actually after, and that question absolutely sets her off. She reveals she's the true architect behind the prophecy, known as Snowball Earth. The master plan was to deploy cryogenic cores across 17 different locations to turn the entire world into an ice cube that humanity simply cannot escape. But the founders showed up, and now we're seeing her perfect plan fall apart. Ella tells Midori that because he's being stubborn, she's decided to give things a little push. Suddenly, Midori's hit with a freezing blast he never expected from a cluster, a lethal ice attack. The shock is written all over him. And Ella knows he's likely baffled why she can use ice when her kind are supposed to be cold weak. She calls him an idiot, saying humans use fire even if it burns them. She reveals she developed a skill to control low temperatures. And that the whole world will freeze in Snowball Earth. Midori realizes Ella is just too strong. Another attack forces him to dodge, his power feeling weak. Kasha steps up to face Ella, urging Midori to run. They can't afford to lose him, but Midori won't budge. When asked why, he says they are Makoto's final legacy. Hearing this hits the duo's hearts immediately. He'll die to protect them, the proof that Makoto stopped the prophecy. And he won't let that go to waste. Suddenly, Ella reaches Midori before he can blink, punching him into the distance, far from those he should protect. Flying through the air, Midori realizes he cannot win. He remembers his childhood, called a cursed child for his power. No friends, and it only got worse. He had just killed so many people. He sees himself as just a kid who only destroys instead of protecting. He's truly cursed, but then he remembers Io saving him, which forces him to rethink Io didn't save him for nothing. He remembers all the people saved by Io, Makoto, and Kanagi. However, fighting Ella is hard because she looks totally human. He's absolutely furious at himself, shouting he isn't the strongest while unleashing a massive turbulence blast at her. This pins Ella down before he ends with a massive tornado. A giant crater remains, making Kasha and Rei believe he won. But that final move cost everything. Midori spent blood pouring from his body. The dust clears, and Ella appears totally unharmed, telling the trio that they are completely screwed. Ella decides it's time for him to die for that weak attack. She fires, he has no defense. Midori knows that this is the end, hating that he couldn't protect Makoto's final keepsakes. Suddenly, Mel's seal of truth appears and nullifies the blow. Ella's stunned, she turns around, and Kanaga's squad rolls in, auras flaring high. Mel sighs, that was far too close. Kanagi says he is happy to be on time, while Ella is totally shocked by how fast he actually arrived here. She tells him that she wasn't expecting him since he was supposed to be the main course for today. Without hesitation, she strikes with a massive gravity attack that sends the whole squad running away to save their own lives. Midori yells a warning to be careful because Ella is ranked as number 2. After giving that warning, he passes out from pure exhaustion and massive blood loss. Suddenly, Kanagi actually thinks it's a blessing that the poor guy is finally out cold now. Ella is furious that Kanagi is looking somewhere else instead of focusing on their battle. And she drops a massive ice meteor on the team. Everyone panics, but Iru takes it to another level as usual, clutching his head in total frustration because he's convinced that he is about to die right now. But Mel's tells Iru there is nothing to fear because during their short stay in the city of Alit, they managed to give Kanagi some more training. Mel's then summons her starlight power, revealing a fiery meteor that meets the ice halfway, causing a massive explosion to rock the entire sky above. The ice shatters into nothing but steam, and even Ella is quite impressed by this feat. Deep down, Mel's is worried her power won't be enough since the key is actually Midori. Meanwhile, Midori wakes up in his own mind wondering where he is, believing he's dead. Just then, he hears the voice of Skirnir behind him, saying that he is wrong. Skirnir relaxes on the grass, saying he was always cramped in Kanaga's mind, but Midori's space is far more comfortable. Midori is shocked to see a strange person in his head, and he asks him who he is. Back outside now, Ella is still making life a nightmare for Kanagi and his crew. Uryu is hiding behind their vehicle, and he even suggests they should run from the area. However, Sokka lets him know that his idea is just beyond stupid. Before he finishes, Ella hits them with gravity that makes them start falling toward the side. As expected, Ryu is the worst of them all, screaming just like a goat. Kannagi sees Midori's body falling off, but before he can even make a move, Ella attacks him, reminding him that she already told him to stop looking at other things. She lunges toward Kannagi hoping to catch him, while he is totally distracted. But Heizama takes over Kanaga's body, just in time to block the strike with his heavy shield. Even so, she is still able to blast a powerful ice attack. Luckily, Suo catches Midori and tells Kannagi to focus on the fight, since they are going to look after Midori during the rest of this epic battle. Heizama warns Kannagi that Ella is a tough foe because he can feel her power from that last strike. Ella says, Kannagi should know she was joking when fighting the appetizer Midori, but since the main dish is here, she is finally getting serious right now. She lets him know that she has no choice but to give it everything. Ella then drops another ice meteor, leaving the entire team feeling completely terrified. Seeing how bad things are, Melz tells Heizama to switch places with her. Melz asks Sokka and Ryu if they can teleport the whole team. But Ryu says that's impossible because knowing everyone's exact location is just not an option. Melz agrees and stops complaining, launching her own fire meteor to counter the incoming ice attack. At this point, Melz realizes she has no other choice but to act. You have to admit, Midori is incredible for holding his ground against Ella for 5 whole minutes. Now, Melz can only pray for him to return soon. Inside Midori's mind, though, Skirnir finally speaks up, calling Midori his junior since they both carry the exact same crest. As the founder of the wind, he apologizes for the chaos he has caused in Midori's soul. Completely overwhelmed, Midori just wants to know why this legend is living inside him. Skirnir explains the crest connects them, telling the boy to think of him as a special mentor. He reveals that an Awakener is a being who transcends all human logic and makes it clear that Midori is only standing at the very entrance of that divine domain. Then Skirnir drops a truth Midori desperately needs to hear. He actually has the hidden potential required to take down the clusters for good. While the battle rages outside, Suo asks if they even have a chance against Ella. Mel's answer, 0. Suo is stunned, wondering how they are supposed to stop a monster like her. But Ryan steps in, telling them not to give up. A real strategist always plans the next move, regardless of whether they are winning or losing. Melz agrees, noting that while the founders live, there is still hope. Ella just laughs at that. She mocks them, screaming that surviving against her is a total impossibility as she prepares to end it all. She fires a massive blast at the group. But Melz blocks it, shouting that they are all betting everything on Midori's sudden awakening. Ella finds it hilarious when she realizes their big savior is just some kid they are waiting on to wake up. She ramps up her pressure, asking what they could possibly do once he finally awakens. Melz doesn't flinch. She confidently replies that they are going to use that chance to defeat her. Back in his mind, Midori can't believe he actually has the strength to stand against someone as terrifying as Ella. Skirnir insists he is the only one who can, but there is a catch. Even if Skirnir enters his soul, he won't be able to control Midori like Kannagi. Midori will have to do the fighting himself. Midori hangs his head. If only he had pushed himself harder, maybe he wouldn't be suffering like this now. He tells the founder he has been training his heart out since he was a little kid, all just to protect people from the horrors of those ancient prophecies. He struggles to express the pain. But Skirnir stops him. He knows that feeling all too well. After all, they are cut from the same cloth. He says they both want to save the survivors, but it feels like his strength always fails. Every time he needs power the most, it seems like his hands come up empty. Skirnir points out that the entire world is still suffering from the ancient roots of evil they allowed to take hold. It turns out the legendary founder carries his own heavy burden of trauma. Stealing his emotions, Skirnir walks forward and tells Midori to reach out and take his hand. He promises to give him every ounce of the power he needs to win this. Midori realizes the cost immediately. if Skirnir hands over his power. The founder will fade away for good. It is a heavy sacrifice, but Skirnir smiles. He is happy to finally finish his mission and join his fallen comrades who went before him. Skirnir grabs Midori's hands, and in an instant, an incredible surge of power begins to flood into him. All right, Midori finds himself able to dive into Skirnir's memories, witnessing a secret meeting with the legendary fire founder, Astra. Astra questions if Skirnir is really heading for the mausoleum. Skirnir confirms it, revealing that Valentine's diagnosis was extremely grim. His time is running out. He is becoming a shadow of himself. Because he pushed his limits too far, causing his very soul to shatter. Back then, Skirnir realized he must wait for the next chosen awakener of the crest of nothingness. Only that specific power can halt the total destruction of his fading spirit. He tells his ally that even having just one hero to pass the torch to is enough for him. Astra vows to join him in the mausoleum, but Skirnir warns him not to throw his life away just yet. Skirnir admits to Astra that battle is exhausting. He laments failing to catch that girl's hand when it mattered most. The pain of those he could not save still haunts his broken heart. But Astra reminds him they all shared that failure. He should not carry it alone. Even so, Astra believes a day will come when they can trust a successor to finish what they started. Eyes filled with tears, Skirnir doubts if a person like that could truly exist, though he deeply hopes for it. Now, back in the present day, Skirnir's spirit finally vanishes, leaving his legacy and power in Midori's hands. Midori weeps for his master, while Suo realizes his own crest is beginning to pulse. On the battlefield, Ella is livid. How dare Mel's think a brat like Midori could defeat a cluster? She screams out in rage, mocking Midori for being a weak, modern awakener who could not even stand his ground against her. To her, he is just a frail toy to be frozen and shattered. As she speaks, watch closely now as she pushes her mana to the limit, unleashing a devastating gravity field called nebulography, crushing them all. Mel's desperately tries a dispel, but Ella scoffs. It is too late. Suddenly, Kanagi is blasted from behind by her lethal freezing energy. Mel's attempts one final counterspell, but she is completely swallowed by the sheer weight of Ella's overwhelming pressure. As Kanagi is encased in ice, Mel's fears that Skirnir failed to pass on his power in time. This is it. They are losing. With the team at her mercy, Ella prepares one final, massive gravity surge to wipe them all out for good. But she suddenly freezes, noticing a massive chunk of her own body has been completely erased. Before she can even process the pain, she sees it, a tiny, concentrated sphere of wind, absolutely shredding her physical form from the inside. Within seconds, a violent cyclone sweeps her up, tossing her like a rag doll and shattering her gravity spell. Ella stares in pure horror as Midori materializes right before her, dealing a barrage of wind-infused strikes that send her screaming into the earth. Her arm is gone, and her body is literally falling apart. Ella can only shriek in sheer frustration. Our hero finally makes his grand entrance, looking absolutely legendary as he steps out to stand protectively in front of Kanagi. He looks Ella dead in the eye and tells her it is time to end this. As we see Midori arrive, Kanagi realizes the sad truth. Skirnir is gone, but his legacy lives on. He is about to break down, but Mel steps in, telling him Skirnir did what he had to. Duty fulfilled. Ella's limbs stitch back together, ready for round 2, but then, a shocking realization. Turns out, Number 0 stumbled onto a truly terrifying truth when he stole Midori's body. That specific day, he leveled Manhattan with Midori's strength, but when he tried to push for his full power, he recoiled in pure terror. The sight from that day still haunts his soul. He finally understood why Midori held back. Going all out would literally tear the planet apart with them. Theory says wind cannot break Mach 1. Why? Because of the physics. Breaking the sound barrier creates devastating shock waves immediately. Effectively, the wind just shreds itself into nothingness. But Midori, he cheats. He fuses his aura with the gale itself. Now he is hitting Mach 3. This kind of power, It should not even exist. It is an absolute and total abomination of nature. Creating a storm like that has consequences. It would rip through the planet like a high-caliber bullet through paper. A massive vortex piercing from the sky straight into the Earth's core. Underground debris would choke the skies, poisoning the air and permanently altering the planet's atmospheric circulation. Earthquakes, tsunamis, absolute and total chaos. Catastrophe. Weather goes wild. Gita's prophecy about Midori ending the world? Yeah, that was not an exaggeration. It is a literal blueprint for the apocalypse. We are talking total world-ending power here. It is a terrifying truth. Humanity is finished if Midori stops holding back. Everything we saw before. Number Zero's little stunt was just a light breeze compared to this. But thanks to Skirnir, Midori finally has a grip on this godlike force. Midori squares up against Ella. His first move, creating a perfect vacuum where air simply ceases to be. He calls it the void wind, and it is absolutely lethal. He runs the numbers and realizes he just needs to flood that vacuum with his massive wind aura. Then, compressing the raw fury of a Mach 3 tornado into one single point. That void wind, it becomes a delete button for everything. Stack more skills on top of that, now you are looking at a literal time bomb. Midori makes it official. He is the ultimate, perfected form of a wind awakener. Ella is done waiting. She fires off a barrage of ice spears to end this now. But the moment they get close, they just bounce right off him. Even Ella herself gets slammed into the dirt. She is left dazed, wondering why her own attacks are missing the mark so badly. Before she can even blink, Midori closes the gap and delivers a punch that sends her screaming into the distance. He has figured it out. Predict the enemy's movement, place the void wind accordingly, and he controls the entire fight. He can literally force his opponents to move exactly where he wants. Plus, by using those void winds as tactical relay points, he can accelerate to insane speeds. Imagine the speed of the Flash mixed with the raw, crushing power of the Hulk. Ella is caught off guard. She is being tossed around like a ragdoll. There is zero way for her to even respond. All right, Kanagi and the crew watch in absolute horror as Ella gets tossed around like a ragdoll. Ella is completely baffled. How did Midori get this strong so suddenly? She cannot believe her touch is not eroding his body at all. That wind aura of his, it is keeping her at bay constantly. Fueled by rage, Ella prepares to unleash something truly devastating now. But Midori shuts it down before she can even blink an eye. He lets her know right then, everything she tries is just totally meaningless. He grips her hand, releasing a wind blast that shreds her arm to pieces. Reality sets in. She cannot win, she has to get out. Too late, Midori's attack is already tearing her entire body apart. Hitting the dirt, she finally admits it. Midori is a total monster. Desperate, she decides to bet everything on one final kill. He is just too dangerous to exist. Ella fuses her two strongest techniques together. But Midori cancels them out before they even form. Ella is paralyzed with pure shock. Midori calmly explains that his void wind now dominates this entire airspace above them. She looks down only to see her lower half vanishing into nothing. She falls, pure terror written all over her face. There is no way she is beating this guy. Accepting her fate, she focuses on triggering the ancient prophecy at last. She explodes her aura, trying to awaken the Snowball Earth event immediately. But Midori's void simply swallows her energy whole once again. Ella has no words left for this. He warned her already, nothing she does will work. His void eats everything she tries throwing. She is trapped and completely powerless here. Still, her massive pride refuses to let her give up yet. Midori snatches her with void wind, silencing her voice and her body forever. She slowly fades into nothingness. Finally, she understands the fear her comrades felt 300 years ago against the Founders. Midori clenches his fist, turning Ella into nothing but a cloud of dust. It is finished. Then, Skirnir's voice echoes behind him, praising him for a job well done. Passing into the afterlife, Skirnir leaves the rest of the future to Midori. Midori thanks his master one last time. Somewhere else, a mysterious group watches the galaxy, and these clusters very closely. The white-haired man notes that the clusters have made their move. He sees it all very clearly. The second rank has officially been defeated down on Earth. The main cluster force is mobilized, and they are not waiting for anyone. Their target is definitely planet Earth. The redhead is shocked that it is happening so soon. It is time for them to head to Earth too. The redhead agrees, and get this, here is the big reveal. This man is Kane, the legendary founder of Wanderer. You and I are meeting the Odachi founder now, Minamoto no Shiger. He is nodding along with the white-haired Kanagi Itaru. Meet Kanaga's predecessor, the original wielder of the legendary crest of nothingness. They all know the truth, this is the final battle. Back on Earth, Sue is reeling. Midori soloed Ella. Midori is just as shell-shocked. He barely touched a founder's power, it's too much. Sue loses it, just a portion, that kind of strength is insane. Midori drops a truth bomb, awakeners are beyond human comprehension. And he's just beginning. There's a hidden depth here he never imagined. Now things get weird. Midori starts acting like a confused baby. His conclusion, he needs more. Kanagi calls out to him, and Midori's first response, he's starving. Then, boom, he collapses right there. Later, Midori wakes up in Kanaga's room, totally lost. Downstairs, the squad is feasting on Mama Kanaga's cooking. Uryu's begging for seconds, this food is legendary. Sokka is inhaling his meal like a vacuum. Still, he tells Uryu to show some damn respect. Even Rui's there. It's been way too long since he's eaten this. Everyone is in absolute food heaven, you and I would be too. Mama's scolding Kanagi, why didn't he mention guests were coming? Terrified the food will stop. Uryu and Sokka offer to run for more groceries. But Mama shuts it down, guests don't run errands. Her only rule, eat until you burst. But then, Akin asks about Kanagi, Suo points her upstairs. Upstairs, Midori is losing his mind over his meal. It's her specialty. Kanagi wishes Midori could join the party. Too bad the world still thinks he's dead. Midori's cool with it, Kanagi remembers the scouting day. They'd prepped this exact meal then. Until that S-rank hunter ate it all, rude. Belly's full, it's time to talk. Skirnir left his knowledge and vanished completely. Now Midori wants to master it all to repay him. Problem is, Earth can't handle his full power training. Enter Rui, he's been eavesdropping the whole time. Looking for a place to train. He knows just the spot. Later, Kanagi drifts off, and you'll never guess who's waiting. Looks like Mel's finally clocked it. Kanagi is hungry for that next level of power. She tells him straight up, it is finally time for him to reach the second stage. Mel's looks to the sky, mentioning that Hinoki has already headed into the rift to train. Kanagi looks up and spots a massive island floating in the clouds. Waiting there is the legendary founder of the Divine Beast, Byako. And the founder of Dominion, Valerian Rex, is there as well, totally fired up that Kanagi is finally ready to ascend for his training. However, Rex makes one thing clear, there will be zero mercy during this training session. Rex asks the founders if they trained Kanagi well, but Mel says they have done their part. The rest is his problem. As for Kanagi, he is still completely lost. Like, what even is this second stage they keep talking about? Suddenly, an invisible hand grabs him, dragging him straight up toward that mysterious floating island. Mel shouts that from tonight on, that island is going to be his new training ground. She explains that everything they taught him before was just about pushing human limits to the max. But the ones waiting on that island, they are on a completely different level of existence. Since they need that power, Mel's tells Kanagi that right now, they are finally stepping into the domain of the founders. Kanagi screams in pure shock, asking what Mel's and the rest of the crew will be doing. Mel's just replies that they need to sharpen their own souls as well. Kanagi is totally baffled by all this. He has no idea what it actually means to sharpen a soul. Then a strange voice speaks. And Kanagi instantly knows it is Rex. Honestly, Rex is actually surprised that the kid even recognizes him. Kanagi tells him he has read the Book of the Founders so many times that the pages are practically falling apart at this point. Based on everything he knows, the only person capable of using this insane skill is the founder, Valerian Rex. Rex is impressed he got it right, so he drags him even closer with that invisible grip. Kanagi hits the ground, wondering where exactly he has been taken. And then Rex tells him straight up, his head is way too high. With crushing force, he pins him down, literally forcing him to bow right there on the spot. Kanagi is panicking. He literally cannot move a single muscle in his body. Rex tells him to stay humble until he is given permission to even look up again. Groaning in agony, Kanagi asks Rex why he never showed himself before, considering he was living inside him too. Rex just tells him that he is nothing more than a vessel. But he thinks it might be interesting to see what he can learn from a human like him. Rex explains that his crest of nothingness is actually linked to the planet's entire past and future, giving it absolutely massive potential. He mentions that Earth is gathering all its strongest beings from every timeline into this one to stop the malice consuming the universe. He adds that the one Kanagi calls Melstes Silentius was actually the very first ancient king. But he and his people have been around way longer than that. With a simple flick of his hand, he finally lets Kanagi catch his breath. He tells him to raise his head, but Kanagi is still baffled by the idea that they have existed since the dawn of time. Kanagi looks up only to see these overwhelming, powerful figures appearing all around him. Rex tells Kanagi a shocking truth he never expected to hear. Rex and his family, turns out they are literal demigods. Rex admits they have been waiting for him to grow, since they do not really understand human limits. Naturally, Kanagi is completely baffled by this. Rex explains his mortal frame will shatter if he tries to house the power of actual gods. It is clear these divine beings have no idea how fragile humans really are. Suddenly, Rex floats upward, radiating a crushing pressure that pins Kanagi down. It is time to prove if he is actually worthy of their power to crush the clusters. This one question is going to serve as the second stage of his intense trial. While Kanagi begins his brutal training above, Mels rallies her comrades, saying it is time to fulfill their duty, and Astra couldn't agree more. Even the water element founder, Jiazu, is on the scene. Alongside her stands Reve, the legendary founder of the earth element. Meanwhile, Suo is fast asleep when his late brother suddenly appears in a dream, telling him it is time to finally inherit his crest. Suo is beyond confused, desperately asking Makoto if this is all just a vivid dream. His brother says he can believe what he wants, but his only goal is to pass down the crest. Without hesitation, Suo asks if his brother plans on disappearing again the second the transfer is complete. Makoto stays silent because they both already know the painful answer. Suo breaks down in tears. There is still so much he never got to say to his brother. Seeing just how devastated his little brother is, Makoto pulls him into a spiritual room so they can finally talk. Suo tears flow even faster as his brother sits there, calmly holding his cat in his hands. Makoto praises his brother for living a good life, and a tearful Suo nods in agreement. He talks about how he and Orabai are doing great, along with the rest of the family. Suo even brags about his training under Ikika and becoming the vice captain of the Kanagi squad. Suo keeps talking, recounting every single thing that has happened since his brother passed away. After they catch up, Suo finally calms down, telling Makoto how happy he is just to see him again, even if it is only a dream. He vows to get so strong that he will never lose to his brother ever again. Sounding truly confident, Suo tells him not to worry. Makoto just smiles and says he already knows. Then Makoto touches their crests together, sending a wave of warm, powerful energy surging through Suo's body. Makoto whispers one final, silent message before he begins to fade away once more. Suo screams for his brother to stay, only to suddenly bolt upright in the real world. He checks his arm and sees his crest has transformed into a brand new shape. It looks way more fierce than before. By morning, Kanagi is too exhausted to even eat, complaining that his night of training was pure hell. Seeing the mood is low, Sue tries to cheer everyone up by showering Kanagi's mother with compliments on her incredible cooking. Once breakfast is over, the squad gets ready to head out, thanking the woman for her gracious hospitality. Kanagi makes sure to tell his mom how delicious the meal was, making her smile and say it was worth the stress. She even tells Kanagi promises to bring his friends back next time. They are such a great group. His mother waves a bittersweet farewell to her son. She will not see him again until the new year. Kanagi rushes off, full of energy, shouting for his mom to prepare an epic meal by then. Later, Kanagi checks in with Rui to see if Midori is with him right now. Rui confirms it, and Kanagi promises he will be right there to join them very soon. During the journey, Akin notices the change in Suo crest. He explains it was a special gift from his brother. Fueled by this brand new power, Suo knows he finally needs to go and meet Ikika. Soon after, Kanagi finds Midori deep within a massive open space where he is currently training. Kanagi is blown away by the planet size, but Midori reminds him that Rui made this possible. Turns out that Rui discovered this habitable world and realized their portal could actually transport them here, with an entire planet available. Midori is free to train as hard as he wants without holding back at all. Interestingly enough, the founders themselves used this very planet as their personal training ground. Midori plans to head back to the agency soon, but first, he needs a training partner. He urges Kanagi to step up and be his official training partner. Kanagi is stunned, but Midori points out he is the second strongest fighter around. To test his limits, he needs a sparring partner who can actually keep up. Kanagi is the perfect choice for this. Midori gives him a playful smirk, teasing that he will try his best not to break him. Shaking off his fear, Kanagi finds his resolve. He accepts the challenge with a determined voice, officially declaring that their practice session has begun. Meanwhile, a team of clusters is currently racing toward Earth. Their captain tells the crew to get some rest because they still have a very long way to go. He reminds his warriors that they must individually activate 5 super rank prophecies before their main force finally arrives. The real invasion begins soon. First is the content creation process. After having an idea, I will create an outline for each part. This is the idea, and this is the outline. After checking this outline carefully, I start writing detailed content based on the outline above. So this is my handwritten script. After I based it on that outline, after having the handwritten script, once this is done, we put it into a translation website. This is our internal translation website. We designed this website specifically